expanding the industrial zoned acreage of the city to the east side of County Road B across the road from the land currently identified as industrial. A yes vote does not ensure a data center will be built, only that zoning would allow for the possibility of a data center after the developer successfully obtains the numerous development agreements, utility contracts, permits, and other required approvals. A no vote, however, to the rezoning of this land is saying no to not only the possibility of a data center, but also no to the other types of permitted uses. A no says no to paint shops, laboratories, machine shops, various forms of manufacturing and processing, and other forms of storage or warehousing. In summary, the questions one should be answering are: 1, do you want to follow the city's current generalized future land use map guidelines and rezone any new land located in the circle of Area 15 as industrial? 2, do you want to create the opportunity for a larger tract of land to be zoned industrial and connected to city services, something that developers have been seeking? 3, do you want to start closing the gap on the documented need for industrial additional acreage shown in your own comprehensive plan? 4, do you want to accept the Plans Commission's unanimous recommendation to rezone the land to restricted industrial? And 5, do you want to take advantage of this opportunity now to expand this industrial area, an opportunity presented to you unanimously by the current landowners? Since expanding the city east of County Road B and rezoning the land as restricted industrial is consistent with the city's own future land use map for the area, 15, and the city's goals for future, and consistent with the Plans Commission's recommendation, I strongly urge the council to take full advantage of this opportunity and vote yes on the proposed ordinance 2025-05 to rezone the area as restricted industrial. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pavel Bizakov. I'm a resident of Menomonie. My address here is on this list. I would like to present the reasons why you should vote against the annexation and rezoning of the land in question. Although annexation and rezoning are set to open doors for other businesses that are seeking this type of land, just like the previous speaker said, only the data center project has already submitted intentions to develop this large area, according to their letter that they sent to the city on June 18th. The proposal for annexation and rezoning seems coming from the landowners seems odd, because they can sell this land to whoever they want without any other party being involved. Rezoning before the sale seems like an attempt to receive additional benefits from that potential sale. Agricultural land in Wisconsin, on average, is sold at a price about $6,800 per acre. Industrial one land is sold for the average of $100,000 per acre. That's a big difference, 15 times more than that. Also, I would like to bring your attention to other projects similar to this one across the nation that were turned down by city councils or entities in years of 2024 and 2025. I have a list of these projects here, and I would like, I don't know, it would be okay to pass this thing around. Just a table. I'll take one of this. In all these cases, the decisions to turn this project down was happening at this very moment, at the rezoning. The other cities, other communities were pushing back, and those communities were different in size, but they have very similar concerns. And the concerns that were, those were rural communities, urban communities. They range from 6,000 people to 200,000 people. Concerns that they were talking about were noise. That will be noise pollution to the area, so that's environmental impact from the potential facility. Loss of property value for adjacent property, that's a big factor. Permanent loss of agricultural land on that area. High electricity demand, high water demand, very concerning, that last thing, because water resources cannot be expanded the same way as electricity. I would add to that list of concerns, high traffic for the construction period, 3 or 4 years for the project of this size, and accommodation for hundreds of construction workers who will be working on that project. The most concerning part is the impact on the local life in general. For the data centers do not create jobs despite of their massive size, do not create jobs in the numbers that would be significant for the community. We heard different numbers with respect to this project, and I would not dare to speculate how many people will be employed, but it's not the employer that we should beg to come to our town. We are talking about mostly remote works, except for essential personnel, maybe a few dozen people on site. Also, the various tax cuts and tax reliefs for companies in those situations essentially eliminate potential benefits for the local communities for the foreseeable future. So no additional jobs, no tax, additional strain on the infrastructure. That's what we are facing. As representatives of the city of Menomonie, of its community, I think you should vote against this project, as it will not benefit the community in general. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Bruce Seawold, East 6500, 690th Avenue. And I'm the person that was probably dealt a bad hand, because just last year I built a brand new home within a half mile of the proposed construction site of this facility. And doing research, I found 3 areas, one in Maryland, one in Mesa, Arizona, and one in Oregon, who have built within that range, who all have said their property values are stagnant or have gone down. So I guess I've got a bad hand in terms of what I did, trusting that something was going to go in there that would be acceptable to house values and a quality of living. But I come here tonight, first of all, thanks for, many of you responded to me when I wrote you letters and emails and called you. Special thanks to Sydney. Sydney braved us yesterday down at the Raw Deal with 8 people that were somewhat hostile, angry, but she listened carefully to what we were saying and understood where we were coming from. So I appreciate that, Sydney, a whole bunch. But I come here as a person who worked in economic development for 12 years. 12 years, which tries to explain what is the best fit for companies to come to a city or an organization of any type. And the key to a good economic development is jobs. And those jobs are not just the construction part of it, and I gotta believe many of these construction jobs will not be local people that are doing this. They'll be brought in. But the key is long-term paychecks that are coming in to people week after week after week. It seems, though, that what we've heard, that someplace between 20, 50, 75, who knows who's gonna be working there, it's minimal. That's less than 3 jobs per acre if you go to the data center. That doesn't compute. What I think you want to do is get a person that comes in, gets that paycheck every week, and goes and spends the money in the community. They go to the grocery store, they go to the bank, they go to the restaurants, they go to an auto dealer. They buy all these things, and we could track an economic development that those dollars will change hands 4 times once they get into the system. 50 people coming in to 320 acres is minimal to the job and economic impact to this community. So really think carefully about that in terms of what you're doing. Now, a story. And Lee Schwebs, you were a part of this story. When the Stout Technology Park was being built, probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there was really angst in the community in terms of taking this property away from the city and putting an economic development area in there, the Stout Technology Park. But I never saw a community come together based from Mayor Stokey, who was the leader at that point, the Stout Foundation, who gave the land to us, the Northern States Power, Lee, that's where you were definitely involved in that, and the Menomonie Development Corporation built this, put the infrastructure in, and no one came. It was scary. The Menomonie Development Corporation came in and said, we will build a spec building. They it was about a $500,000 spec building. It sat there a while, and then we got a call from Bob Cervenka. Bob Cervenka said, I want that building. I think this is a great town to come into because you have a lot of technology grads I want, you've got a workforce I want, and I'll bring a lot of economic opportunity. He built it. It was a bad building. It leaked. We had to do all sorts of things to it. But he got into it, and then he built another one, and another one, and another one. Thousands of people from Phillips Plastics now work in this town. Their paychecks go to the restaurants. They go to the banks. They go to the auto dealers. They are spending that money again and again and again because the brave people who had the courage at that time to start the tech park. We've had these problems before. I mean, this is a tornado right now going on in Menomonie. But it's not new to Menomonie. And anyone who's got I've lived here over 50 years. And you remember some stories that we have here for 50 years. And one of them was Walmart. Even Walmart coming in was a tornado in terms of, should we allow this? Should we take the Young Farm and build a Walmart center? We did it. Lots of jobs. The glass factory, another problem. Should we do it? We did it because there was jobs there. And I looked at the data today, over 200 people work at the glass factory. 200 people. Then the ethanol plant. Major problems in terms of should we put an ethanol plant in the development corporation or the city limits. And we had a lot of concerns, but we put it in the right place, but not in the industrial park. And then the last one I remember, and you probably remember this too, if you You be the voice of the people. We want all your concerns expressed. It was the most way of deflating the problems that existed in the city at that time, in the county. Should we do an exit or not exit? I would say we don't know enough about what's happening to an exit or not. I would say the council has to be brave enough to say, let's set this aside. Let's table it for 90 days. Let's learn more about what this development committee or development program is about, and then vote on it with much more information than we have now. Thanks.
My name's Brenda Walker. I live at 1319 Wilson Street in Menomonie. I've talked to 3 of you guys about this project, and I was very reassured in that I know that you guys have the best interests of Menomonie at heart. But the thing is, I feel like the company behind this data center is kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, you've been talking to the people that their job is to be nice and reassuring and, you know, make you feel like they care about the community. You don't even, maybe some of you know, but you don't even know what the company is behind it. And, you know, first of all, you just need to realize that if you approve this, you are responsible for any negative impacts that happen down the road, even though, and I think in a way my main concern is you're going to have an agreement, a legal agreement that puts caps on things and, you know, makes you feel like you have control over the situation. But I am very mistrustful of these big companies. First of all, again, they don't have our best interests at heart. They have infinite amounts of money and infinite amounts of lawyers. So if you miss something in the contract, or you didn't understand it, or they slipped something in there that you didn't realize was in there, you are not going to be able to win against these people. And, you know, I know that you've had projects like this proposed before and you turned them down. So I would just like to know what's different about this one that you can't turn this one down. And I hope that, I realize this is not what you're voting on today, but when you get to the point of voting on whether you're going to approve this data center or not, you need to let people know exactly how much tax revenue are we talking about? What percentage of that is of the Menomonie budget is that? What is it going to be used for? Will that be going up in the future? Is that a guaranteed income? You know, what are the caps on water use and power use? If there's a power outage, will the data center get you know, take precedence over the citizens and, you know, things like that. Yeah, I'm just really I don't trust these people, and I hope that you won't trust them either. But mainly, I hope that you will, before you vote, that all the facts will be laid out for the public to look at so that we can have some input. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica White and my address is E6502 690th Avenue. I live in Red Cedar and I'm located within 1 mile of the proposed property. I previously spoke at the city's planning committee a week ago, and since then I've spent a lot of time reaching out to council members and talking with other homeowners that live adjacent to the proposed property. I do want to thank the council members who have responded to my email and those who have spent some time talking to me on the phone. It's very appreciated. My family has many concerns with the annexation and rezoning based on the plans to build a data center on the proposed property. So I and several others have asked city council members about whether the data center is supposed to be taken into consideration when voting on the rezoning, or if rezoning is just about economic growth for the city of Menomonie. The answer from everyone was that the vote is supposed to only consider economic growth. Therefore, I would like to discuss each separately, starting with the rezoning. My family and I live in Red Cedar, and we see this proposed property out our window every single day. It is a beautiful piece of fertile farmland, currently with crops of corn and soybeans, and where animals flourish. The reason for annexing and rezoning land should be to accommodate a city for growth or to provide municipal services to other areas. It must be reasonable and not just be a way to extend the city's boundaries. We label properties as agriculture to protect them, and this should be done until a time comes when it is no longer feasible to do so. So if this is about economic growth, let's pretend the data center does not exist. And let's look at the population and land currently in the city. The U.S. Census shows the population of Menomonie has only grown by 579 people in 10 years leading up to 2020. And since 2020, it has remained stagnant. Growing population and the infrastructure needed for it is therefore not a reason to rezone this land. If the city is wanting to attract businesses to the area to help with taxes and upkeep within the city, with little concern about the growing population, then the city should be looking at existing land within its own boundaries before talking about annexing and rezoning from surrounding towns. These pre-planned areas of business the city has already created should absolutely be utilized first before rezoning a valuable piece of agricultural land into an urban and industrialized one. I'll be honest, finding what's for sale if I was being a business owner was a little difficult. Talking to my neighbors and surrounding people has helped as well as looking at realtor sites. What I do know is that there is currently around 120 acres available for sale by 3M. This land I know needs to be rezoned as well when a business is interested, but it is currently in the city and it's an already existing piece of the industrial park. There is also 153 acres off of Highway B that is zoned for building on. It is part of the city already, and it was designated for growth as well. It is 153 acres that have been available for city growth for over 10 years now, and nothing has been built on it yet. There are also 7 commercial businesses available for sale in Menomonie. If you are ignoring the data center and only focusing on economic growth, then there is absolutely no reason to destroy more agricultural land at this time. And I encourage the council to vote no to the rezoning. I am hesitant to talk about the data center today because I really wanted to stress that rezoning should be voted no. However, my biggest concern right now too is that it's going to be voted yes, and then I will not have had my words heard today, and my voice I feel is very important as you guys are elected officials, and I really need this heard. The data center is not supposed to influence this decision of rezoning at all. First though, I also want to address the city. I feel the city does need to be a little more transparent moving forward if you rezone the land, and explain the approval process and what they personally know and don't know to this community. A periodic town meeting for questions and answers for back and forth would be wonderful and would help alleviate the unknown and fear many of us are feeling. And I'm here, more of us here tonight, have scrambled the last 3 weeks trying to learn everything and anything about modern data centers and how we can advocate for ourselves and our community. It would be much simpler to have actual facts in hand from the council and not to be chasing rumors and unknowns. It would also be simpler for the city council so they're not fielding emails and phone calls all day in addition to their normal job hours. As I said, I live off 690th and my street borders the proposed property. I will see this out my window every single day. And I have a lot of community, environmental, and personal concerns. If the rezone occurs and city starts deliberating with the data center, then I want to be sure that these thoughts and my voices of concerns are here today. Water. I saw a council person post on social media that there is a proposed closed circuit for water cooling. I question the word proposed, as this should be a guarantee and not a proposal. We talk about electric consumption. The entire operation literally runs on electricity. Looking at the average electric numbers for a modern home, we run about 1,500 kilowatts per month. A large data center runs 7.2 million kilowatts per month. This is what Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc. all have. This can constrain on a current power grid, and I want to be sure that these upgrade costs are not placed upon the community now or in the future. Can we expect blackouts? Can we expect brownouts? Is this company pursuing renewable energy resources? If not, then how does this possibly align with the city's plan to be carbon neutral by 2050? And what happens if the electric and water consumption numbers that they are proposing end up inaccurate and the company consumes more than stated, as this happens with numerous businesses? Will there be consequences for the company? Data centers also exude heat outside their buildings. How is that going to affect surrounding areas, crops, and wild animals? With water, electric, and heat being very questionable issues, I am asking that the council seriously consider ordering an independent environmental impact study to find out beforehand. I think Bruce did, I had jobs on my list, but Bruce did an excellent job of talking about jobs and how that would be impactful, and how this would be negative with less than 100 jobs being available after the building. Something else I hope you guys have considered, that as technology advances, the physical footprint it needs gets smaller. These computers will probably only need half of the building they do today in the next 10 or 15 years. Have you considered what will happen then? Why would a business pay taxes on only half of what it needs? That means the business may decide to combine data centers. What will the city do if they walk away and forfeit their deed over to the city? Will the city bear the cost for refitting it for another business or possibly deconstructing it? Who will bear the cost to maintain it until a new business is found? I think these are very important questions you should be considering. Also, you have tourism and visitors. How will you accommodate this during construction when hotels are filled and you lose that for over 4 years? These next little parts are more personal because I do live on 690th. This is also my community. Smaller, it doesn't affect the city, but it affects us as well. I was told by a fellow neighbor that a councilman said to her, "Well, we don't want it in the city." This is very, very concerning to me, as I live on 690th, and while the land for the data center may be rezoned, our addresses will remain Red Cedar. Who is looking out for us on this council? I have to trust that some of you will, as we have no representation in this matter, but we are the ones that will be most affected. Construction on this property is supposed to be in stages and last 4 years or more. Our roads are weight restricted. I understand that the data center is supposed to be upfronting the costs, but will they be upgrading the roads to handle construction equipment? 690th is also a dead-end road. Do they plan to only update their little portion, or will they be updating the whole road? And then in the future, who's going to maintain that road? I am concerned about the amount of noise and dirt from construction. Can you imagine waking up at 8 a.m. or earlier every single morning for 4 years? Not being able to open your window for breezes because it brings dirt. And once where birds and breezes were, now there's jackhammers and backhoes for 4 years. And after it is built, what about noise and light pollution? These facilities leave their lights on 24 hours a day for security. Even pointed at the ground, the amount of light will be substantial. And the noise from generators and fans and other cooling systems, I have been told we may not hear it that much, but after 4 years of construction noise, maybe it will be not that bad. And what about the housing costs for those of us who sit directly next to the data center? I have read that those who sit next to the center will depreciate greatly. I don't want to move, but life circumstances changes, and if I have to, am I going to be able to? As someone who lives on this street and is a part of the community, this project needs serious consideration, and if it's eventually voted yes on, cannot be out of sight, out of mind, as you are elected officials and this project is affecting real families. As a community member, I have a lot of questions and concerns. From what I see and understand, the only real positive for allowing the data center is the money it will bring to the city of Menomonie. I know that will look very appealing to some. However, we are trading 300 acres of agricultural land and are giving up our resources for one business with little job placement. Where does the city plan on utilizing the money it will get? Is it being used to just pay bills for the city, or is it being reinvested in the town to benefit the community and its future? I know the TIF rates have not been discussed yet, but the city needs to look really hard and determine if the trade-off is really worth it in the long run, because right now, in my opinion, it is not. Thank you for your time, and I do hope you consider my words when making decisions today.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Terry Siebold. I live at E6500 690th Avenue. We have acreage on that area, and we have lived there for 33 years that we have been in that particular area. I'd like to talk first about the annexation and the rezoning. I'd like to have you slow down and get more information and perhaps table things and then get the information that you need. And as Jessica pointed out, why this property? Why not some other property that's already there? We have 23 residents that live off 690th Avenue. It's 23 residents. In addition, there are 2 additional people that own property there but do not reside in that area. So we are a little community of our own. We're dead-ended, and as Jessica mentioned, what's going to happen to 690th? Is the town of Red Cedar going to get reimbursed for taking care of some of the land? Is the city of Menomonie going to now take care of that property? So when there's a big snowstorm, I'll wait for the city to come and plow me out so I can get access and out of my land. So please consider those things before you do the annexation. That's kind of a little detail that means a lot to the 23, 25 of us that live there. Don't make us an island. I think it was the zoning committee meeting, talked about an island, making islands of Cedar, of town of Menomonie, or town of Menomonie area. Well, don't make us an island up there either. We wouldn't appreciate that with no other access. When you start making the development plan for whoever is going to go into this particular area, please think about the different things that we have been talking about. One of them, the environmental review. Wisconsin does not require one. But in the data or the information that I read, the city councils working with the proposals can require one. Is that doing your due diligence? Yes, that is. The loss of rural character and residential peace. That was in one of the articles that I read today. And it was from someone who was living near an established data center. They lost their rural character and residential peace. So that's what you're going to be taking away from me and the 23 other people that live up there. We did not buy our property, we did not move there to be in the middle of an industrial area. As far as the data center then, okay, I talked about an annexation, and I pretty much say the same thing that Jessica did. The only thing I would add would be the lack of transparency. Who is this company? Who is the balloonist? We've all done research on them too, and I didn't like what I found. So who is this company? At the July 7th board meeting, I said, why should I trust this company that doesn't trust themselves enough to let me know who you are? The noise and the vibration, the electrical use, jobs, 0.3 per acre. Do we know how many jobs? Do you know? Does somebody here know? Or do we just have promises and assumptions? Tax relief and mill rate. That takes 20 years if you do a TIF district. Don't let the people of the city of Menomonie think that, oh, we're going to get this wonderful tax benefit. Yeah, in 20 years. Will the data center be here in 20 years? What's the lifespan of a data center? So I asked you to table this annexation and rezoning and do some more gathering of data. Ask your balloonist company to ask the whoever to give you more details. Why would you be going into something blind without any kind of due diligence in what's their track record? What are their other data centers like? Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor, City staff, and members of the City Council. My name is Ashley Demuth, and I'm here on behalf of the Menomonie Area Chamber and Visitor Center, located at 1125 North Broadway Street, Suite 3, here in Menomonie. Our organization's focus is on serving the business community and promoting Menomonie as a vibrant visitor destination. We recognize that economic vitality is a shared responsibility, one we're proud to support through careful and intentional marketing, connection, education, and advocacy. Annexation and rezoning, when approached thoughtfully and with community input, can create the foundation for long-term prosperity. These decisions, whether they support new growth or enable the expansion of existing areas, can drive significant benefits across our city, including a broader tax base to help fund schools, roads, and public services, new opportunities for job creation and workforce engagement, enhanced support for local businesses through increased foot traffic and spending, and expanded infrastructure and amenities that help retain talent and support population growth. When our community grows, whether through new development or the thoughtful expansion of existing areas, it creates more opportunities for residents to live, work, and spend locally. This, in turn, strengthens our economy from the inside out. People who choose to support local businesses help fuel a greater ecosystem, one where dollars recirculate, jobs are created, and pride in place is reinforced. Expansion, done with care, helps make that ecosystem more accessible and sustainable for everyone. Supporting a local isn't just about where we shop, it's about how we shape our future. When land use decisions open doors for businesses to start, grow, or reinvest here, opportunities arise to create the conditions for a more connected and self-sustaining economy. A healthy business ecosystem means that more choices, stronger partnerships, and a community where prosperity is shared at every level. Our presence here tonight reflects our commitment to contributing to those conditions and ensuring that our community navigates complex decisions with clarity, context, and a shared commitment to the future. Let's continue to ask good questions, seek out facts, and make decisions that move Menomonie forward. If we're not planning for growth, we do risk falling behind. Progress doesn't happen by choice, it happens by choice. A yes to annexation and or rezoning in general creates an opportunity to support choices. Thank you again for your time and your service to Menomonie.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. My name is Steve Hogseth. I live at 614 Woodridge Court here in Menomonie. Artificial intelligence is becoming key to our national economy, but this rapid growth brings escalating environmental risks. Our current administration continues taking an array of deregulation actions that harm our environment and harm our health. This includes deregulation of the AI sector, which embodies data centers. There are many examples of corporate decisions being unchecked for generations, only to discover decades later that those decisions impose dire societal consequences. To name a few: DDT, forever chemicals, fracking, toxic dumping at Love Canal, and we all have personal knowledge regarding smoking. I have been environmentally focused these past 4 decades. I have witnessed environmental science transition to a divisive political football, with one faction of America having developed a conspicuous disregard for our fragile ecological system, including denigration of the related sciences. In general, the majority of Americans, politicians are included, are not well informed on the complexity of environmental abuse. For these data centers, water and energy concerns are just the tip of the iceberg. Now, what I've been reading here, I sent this to the mayor and all the city councilors yesterday. I did a little revision this afternoon. But listening to one of the speakers, I want to talk, just make a comment on energy for all of you to put in your thoughts. Now, when I spoke to the Plan Commission a week ago, I came in with I had tons of data, too much. And I put it together at the last minute. But there is one piece of information that sticks in my mind, and I want you to think about this. This was, in 2024, 1 to 2% of the nation's energy was used by AI data centers. In 2030, the projection is 20% of the nation's energy will be via data centers. So just think about that. This AI is growing like this, and it's something that we really have to be aware of. Now, continuing. My gut tells me if you vote on this data center proposal, and it is a data center proposal, believe me, some of you may do so lacking a thorough understanding of the breadth of environmental risks. There are numerous questions that need answers. As such, I am asking you to show wisdom and courage and put a moratorium on your vote, perhaps for 90 days. Then you can develop a quality plan to study and learn more on the consequences that might precipitate should this data center become a reality. I do not see this as a vote on the data center itself, but more on the environmental health issues it could inflict upon the people of Menomonie. In closing, I do understand that artificial intelligence and data centers are inevitable, and they will escalate around America and the world. But they must be better understood, and they must be better controlled. If you, Menominee's local government, make a concerted effort to learn and understand, perhaps you will end up saying no and explore other business opportunities. And your well-informed action may send a positive message to other communities and elected officials around Wisconsin. It only takes a few brave souls to step forward. Why not you? Thank you.
Well, I feel like a lot of people did a lot of research in the last couple weeks since we met here last, and it's ironic, well, eye-opening. Oh, sorry, John Carpenter. I live on the north side of town. Apologies. It's eye-opening to see how much research and dedication some of these people have put into all of these avenues that directly affect them. And still, no matter how much information we've all gone through, I'm pretty sure everybody here has learned about 15 new things that they would have loved to talk about and had no time, or it wasn't brought to them, or the avenues they picked left instead of right. So I personally know I have a small business in town, and I haven't plowed snow basically for the last 3 years. It has been one of the most nail-biting, hard times of my life to try and start a family and make a name for myself after moving across state lines, and snow is my antidepressant. I don't think I need a single thing other than some good white snow to have an absolute blast, to go snowboarding, to do whatever it is I do need to do. But in order to do those things, I need to be the best me, and this town helps me be it. So I'd like to quickly just tell you this story. This city runs on image, and you can be who you want to be here. The dynamics at play here are serious, and they need to be respected. I came here with a past full of mistakes, but I'm always one who adopts and looks at all possibilities for solutions. While unconventional, I solved my issues with alcohol with a tattoo. It's a no parking sign, circle with a line through it, but instead of a P, I put a beer bottle there. And now, it keeps me accountable. I don't need to count my days of sobriety. I can still enjoy a cocktail 3 times a year if I like it, but first and foremost, I had to admit to myself that it tasted like crap. I got that tattoo on my right knee, so every time I go to the bathroom, I see it. And there's a camera right there. You guys can all see it. It's there. I'm not afraid of ever being down that road to get to this road here, because as so many people in this town have, they've all helped everybody around them that's needed help. So I pushed myself in Minnesota to get my entire life together in 3 years, starting just before COVID, one of the hardest times for most people. I got a dog, I fell in love, and I left Minnesota. I came to Menomonie to be closer with my wife that I ended up marrying, and to be closer to her family, start my own, and participate in the best community around. We now harvest our own beef, pigs, make our own soaps, detergents, deodorants, jams, bacon. We barter our services for goods with our neighbors. My neighbor, Bonnie, makes the world's most unstoppable cheesecake. It is literally unreal. And I have eaten many a cheesecake. I started a local small business. I was allowed to create this image for myself and share these things as so many other people have and have been made possible to them. This city allows people to learn and to grow, and it's not something I'm willing to sacrifice because every single convenience ever has come with a far greater sacrifice. I was a union carpenter in Minnesota for years, and never, ever was a rural job given to local carpenters. There were far too many strict regulations, and the price was too steep. All of the rural jobs were given to the cheapest bidders with out-of-state workers. This always brought terrible build qualities, failures on structures, and unsavory characters to towns that did not need them. And are we willing to sacrifice this just for our safety? Why are we being targeted? It's because we're rural, we're cheap, we don't ask questions, and we honestly are one of the easiest targets. Them providing finances out of good faith up front, they know as well as we do that it's hush money. We take the low-hanging fruit, we allow them in, and it's just to find out that we've been taken advantage of. We think it's freedom. They know that we're free dumb, D-U-M-B, and they will play us like we are that. If we had properly used the spirit of negotiation, we could have found out who the parent company of the shell company is. Sure, it's typical to obscure identity in these types of scenarios, but we are not your typical customers. We need to know who we're in bed with before we just pull out all the stops. We didn't even negotiate for full transparency here. If the city needs money, we understand that, but we the people decide how the city makes it. You are elected officials who represent us, and if we don't want to make our money this way, let us make that decision. Let us make that mistake. 2/3 of the city's properties are rentals. Tenants fear eviction for reaching out regarding broken windows and inhabitable conditions, and our city had the opportunity, and still does, to implement inspections, but has chose against it. This has decreased quality of living. This is not accountable. We could be circulating revenue through all of our local skilled trades and laborers, and as our people have pointed out here, that it could circulate as many times as needed. I know I like buying local, and I try to only do that ever since I came here. So, we could make this city the attractive, family-friendly place that we aim for it to be, but we fail. We've lined the pockets of a few slumlords. Randy Knack, you invented the scum sucker 15 years ago to clean up our lake, but our lake is still terrifying. Why have our elected officials not delivered on some of the biggest topics? I don't see any accountability from them. We need people who listen to us, and right now it doesn't seem like you are competent or qualified to make these decisions given how much focus you've given to this already with so little information. Randy sat, and I want everybody to home to understand this, but the last meeting, Randy sat on the carpet and then laid on the meeting room floor carpet for most of the meeting last week after I already offered him a chair that then remained open. This wasn't a standing room only situation. He had the opportunity, and I offered it to him, and he denied it the entire time. This is not the image that the city needs. And Randy, I see you're wearing a suit and staying upright, so I appreciate it this time. Where was I? We already have the if it doesn't work, kick it down the hill and let it rot mentality. I know that because that's what they did 50 plus years ago with an old combine right behind the old Menomonie town garage that still sits there to this day. This isn't another Anderson Windows plant going in. This is a concept still in its infancy. I remember when I graduated in 2010, my buddy's dad was in computer science and he worked heavily in that field, and him, as a senior at his office, was given a new book every 6 months in 2010 because everything was outdated at that rate. When 2030 rolls around, we will not be getting precedents for power. We will not be getting precedents for water or utilities. All of our stuff will skyrocket. And how are you going to compensate the people whose livelihoods are being taken directly out from under them? We have known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. And what we don't know will ruin us, our image, our values. What we do know is that this will hurt people. Loud noises and vibrations are fatiguing to humans. It's not hard. Look it up. East Palestine derailing had been the sole factor for a suicide in that town. And this is what I'm talking about, the responsibility to your fellow town people. Destroying people's livelihoods is not a game. We can solve the same problems without adding rot to the wound. Let's not add more trash to the garbage fire. Unity is in community for a reason, and we want to see that piece start to be picked up in places that actually matter, with especially like when you find out the math ain't mathin' and that we really don't have a lot of other people interested in this. It feels like we're being targeted, and right now we're not going to stop fighting, and I don't ever want to. This is our community, and we want it to be great.
My name is Arlette Jorgensen. I live at N7391 County Road F. I've heard quite a few people speak here tonight, a small group, mostly against the data center and the rezoning you're going to do. And I know the planning board is also a small group, I believe appointed by you. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, the group before me tonight is elected, and I know you're trying to represent your constituencies. And that's why my suggestion, I feel, is a win-win situation. I believe you should hear from this community, and you should put this to a referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlette.
Good evening, Council. I'm Tim Acola. I live at E6094. That is the property right directly kitty corner from the proposed annexation. My house sits very near the corner of 650th and County Road B. I bought my house a decade ago. And when there was the addition of the warehouses down the street, I didn't talk to the city council. It wasn't a problem for me. I'm happy to see those jobs in the community. When the steel mill got built down the street from me, I didn't talk to the city council. I was happy to see the jobs. When the creamery and Hurlburt got built right directly across the street from me, I was happy to see those jobs. This data center, let's talk about this real quick, right? So 320 acres, is that what's being discussed? 360? I forget the number. I'm going to go ahead and assume that they've said about 5 million square feet, right? And they've probably told you the number of 400 jobs. And that's probably a realistic square footage. They're lying about the jobs, but that's fine. That's what they all do. That's what they all do. These giant corporations, that's what they do. My issue is a personal one. I live so close to this property. The noise from these, and okay, so full transparency, I just got back from a business trip. I had this paperwork sitting on my in my mailbox, and I showed up. I don't have any written reports or anything. I was as soon as I saw that this was happening, I went, oh, I sure would like to go to one of these communities that has one of these data centers and have an actual understanding of what the implications are. But I haven't had the opportunity to do that. Has anybody in the room here, anybody on the council, anyone anywhere, actually been to any of these data centers?
There's visual representation of people having to fill up water and being very close to these places and being absolutely ruined.
Refrain from the audience participating. This is a public hearing. The person at the podium has the right to speak. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is relatively few people have actually made it out to one of these data centers, but we have all seen the stories associated with them. My understanding is the noise levels associated with these is equivalent to a chorus of people screaming 24 hours a day, nonstop, 100 feet from my window. 100 feet from my bed. I'm not going to be able to sell my property. I got a divorce last year, and I did everything I could do. I gave up so much to keep that house because I love that house. And you guys are...
Good. You're good.
Sorry.
This is what community does, though.
Oh, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead, then.
And what's going to end up happening if this data center gets installed? I'm not going to be able to live there. My well is going to run dry. I guarantee that. It doesn't matter how much recirculating of water they do. My well is going to run dry. I'm not going to be able to resell my property. I'm not going to be able to live there and be happy. And for what? For AI, right? Right? And let's be totally transparent about this. The AI bubble, yeah, you know what? It's going up like this. That's because it's a bubble. We've seen this before with the dot-com bubble. We've seen it before with the housing crisis in 2008. This thing is going to pop. Is it going to pop before or after they finish building this place? Anybody have a realistic answer on that? You listen to Ed Zitron, right? He talks nonstop about how everybody is overestimating the amount of actual usage that AI is getting and the utility. I just got back from a business trip, right? There, I was talking with the heads of numerous different multinational corporations, and not heads, sorry, heads of quality of those corporations. A number of the symposia that I attended, around a dozen of them, were focused on the applications of AI in our industries, and it's an incredibly diverse industry. And out of all of them, there was one guy who had one positive story about it, and you know what it was? It was actually about regression analysis, which is not AI. The promise of AI is a lie, and it is going to collapse sooner rather than later. So what are we going to do then when there's a 5 million square foot facility in this field that is absolutely empty? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Derek DeGrosse. I live at 5896 800th Avenue, sorry. I fully oppose the annexation of this land because of the data center. If at another time in the future a different industry comes with a proposal to annex it, sure, go ahead, let's have that talk then. Data center projects throughout the United States have shared two common themes. They overpromise and they underdeliver. Most of the jobs they create are temporary construction jobs. Will those even be from Dunn County? After the construction is complete, most data centers do not even employ 100 people. Go knock on all the businesses in town. There's 100 jobs available in Menomonie right now. From the Wall Street Journal, February of this year, headline, the AI data center boom is a job creation bust. Subheadline, tech and political leaders tout them as an employment bonanza, but data centers need very few workers in very large spaces. Quote that stood out from that article came from the CEO of a data center firm, Patmos Hosting. Quote, data centers have rightly earned a dismal reputation of creating the lowest number of jobs per square foot. End quote. From NPR, April of this year, tech companies are investing hundreds of billions of dollars in data centers across the country, but despite the record-setting price tags, the centers create few jobs. The jobs argument very plainly does not hold up. What about tax revenue? By Wisconsin state law, the data center would be tax exempt from all sales and use taxes in perpetuity. 2023 Wisconsin Act 19 created a sales and use tax exemption for all equipment, all software at a data center for the processing, storage, retrieval, and communication of data, as well as all property used for the development, construction, renovation, expansion, replacement, repair, and operation of a data center. So what's tax exempt? Virtually everything, from all computer parts to all of their electricity, from the water softeners to the fans to the batteries to the conduit they use to build the place. Data centers are not major employers. It's not an office building or a manufacturing plant. It's a massive building stuffed with computers. Regarding the memo that there's a proposed closed-loop cooling system that would make the data center only the 5th largest water user in the city, it puts them behind UW Stout, who employs over 1,200 people. They provide education. 3M employs nearly 800 people. ConAgra employs over 300 people and produces food. Even the largest data centers do not employ 300 people. Smart growth is good for the city. It's good for the county. This is not smart growth. At the estimate provided by Balloonist, the data center would use nearly 27.5 million gallons of water per year, every year, until it abandons Menomonie, which it will someday. If they exceed their estimate or opt for evaporative cooling to save money on construction costs, their water usage would exceed billions of gallons after just a few years. But remember, it's illegal to water your lawn 15 days a month. And to the city's credit, it should be, because water usage is an enormous issue, and there's already immense strain placed on our water resources. So we certainly do not have an additional 27.5 million gallons per year at a conservative estimate for whoever the heck Balloonist LLC is. We don't want their money. We don't want their jobs. Best case scenario, where not 1 ounce of truth is being stretched by their elite lawyers and the nameless clients, this data center could marginally improve the lives of a few of our neighbors who are hired to these supposed high-paying jobs. In the worst case scenario, nobody from our community gets hired, Our water resources are decimated, our air is polluted, our energy grid is strained, and our cost of living in dollars, and more importantly in health, is impacted for the rest of all of our lives. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Garrett Wilkinson. I live at East 5358 732nd Avenue. I've been a resident of Menomonie for the last 6 years and have lived in Wisconsin for the last 19, after moving here to pursue my degree in information technology management from the University of Wisconsin-Stout. My professional background is adjacent to the business sector of the proposed data center, and I've held positions in enterprise IT infrastructure and networking throughout my career. In addition to this background, I follow the technology sector closely in my personal life and subscribe to several publications that produce reporting from respected experts in that field. I wanted to address the council and other hearers today regarding why I oppose the annexation and rezoning of this land as a first step towards development of a data center by the company known as Balloonist LLC. I realize the vote today is only a first step, but as the philosopher Lao Tzu once said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with that first step. Data center developments such as these have been an increasing area of concern for citizens across the country as tech companies seek to expand their presence and their profit margins, often at the cost of the well-being and quality of life for the people who live near them. Companies like this do not choose their sites based on the will of the surrounding community, the health of the local ecosystem and residents, or in the interest of being good neighbors and stewards of the land where they're built. They choose where to locate based largely on 3 simple factors: cheap power for equipment, cheap water for cooling, and low taxes. I believe the LLC's incorporation in Delaware, a state known for its reputation as a tax shelter, supports this claim as a guiding mentality that they hold. One needs look no further than other tech company projects undertaken in Wisconsin, such as the failed Foxconn development in Racine, to see that these types of companies have no moral qualms about financing their blue sky endeavors with incentivized taxpayer money, leaving regular residents footing the bill for both the supporting infrastructure and any long-term impact that the build-out of the facility brings, regardless of whether or not that development is ever successfully completed. Despite the Foxconn project being fully abandoned within 5 years of its inception, the state of Wisconsin has spent over $683 million in taxpayer money as of 2024 in funding a broken promise from a tech company. While the available information suggests that the proposed data center would use closed-loop cooling, as others have mentioned, in an effort to mitigate water and energy usage, the laws of physics guarantee that there is no free lunch when it comes to the astounding amount of energy usage and associated heat production from data centers like this. That power all comes from a local utility, and all of that energy inevitably becomes waste heat. Closed-loop cooling can reduce water usage on site, but often at the price of more costly and polluting power infrastructure built to service the unpredictable demands of data centers. Energy and cooling requirements for a facility like this can spike dramatically after installation, depending on the workload of the data center and the type of equipment it houses. This, in turn, regularly strains local utilities like water and power generation. In a state like Wisconsin, which produces more than 70% of its energy from coal and natural gas, these demands can dramatically delay the transition to cleaner energy sources like wind, hydroelectric, and solar, which typically have a harder time coping with sudden spikes in demand that are common for data centers. Language and development agreements like this that seek to provide for limitations on resource consumption by these types of facilities is regularly found unenforceable in court. Lastly, in terms of unemployment and investment in the local community, these companies habitually overpromise and underdeliver when it comes to their claims about bringing well-paying jobs to cities like Menomonie. While construction of the facility can potentially provide hundreds of temporary jobs during the build-out, many of these jobs may go to non-local specialist contractors who will work here only as long as the project is underway. Once constructed, long-term positions for the people who support the facility, including equipment, maintenance, and security needs, often drop into the low tens, with higher-paying jobs such as IT operations and engineering shunted away to out-of-state or international remote workers. In short, this means that an outlay of public money and tax incentives meant to foster growth of the local economy can take decades to recoup and may in fact never come within the lifespan of the facility. I do not believe that this rezoning in support of a proposed data center would improve the lives of residents of Menomonie. I don't think that it would benefit the community, create good permanent jobs, or economic growth either. It's a virtual certainty that it would strain local utilities and damage the environment through demands on water and power, which brings the risk of higher bills for other residents. All of these concerns rest atop the potential that, even if annexation and rezoning were approved, this project may never happen, but still cost the city significantly in potential waste exploring the possibility. These companies are not good neighbors. They're a form of industrial blight, and I speak at least for the people here with me today in saying that I don't want them in my city. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Seth Hudson. I'm the Executive Director for Corporate Relations and Economic Engagement at UW-Stout, and in full disclosure, I live in Eau Claire. I'm coming before you tonight because I'd like to provide maybe some more context on the item before you this evening, which is zoning. Before coming to Stout, I spent 28 years in the field of economic development and real estate development across the country. In 2012, my family and I moved here, and I worked for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and I also worked for Cedar Corporation for 8 years. And in those roles, I worked very closely with small communities in the area of business attraction, retention, and expansion. When working with these companies, it's not unique. In fact, it's the norm for the end user not to disclose who they are during the early and mid stages of development, specifically around zoning. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, once a company's name is disclosed, project costs usually go up. There's potential impacts around perceived employment and employees working at other locations that might have to get relocated. And then there's also impacts around project funding. If the company is a publicly traded company, there's rules and regulations around when things get disclosed, et cetera, as part of that process. Typically, these types of transactions also involve a third-party LLC, which acts as an intermediary. This very common approach to real estate holdings is also seen in everyday development, such as medical offices, dental offices, you name it, general offices, and even small business financial structures use LLCs, so that's not out of the ordinary. This is how companies, such as, and ones that I've worked on in the past, United Natural Foods that located in Prescott, the Fleet Farm Distribution Center that located in Chippewa, and Hurlburt's that located here in Menomonie were all kept confidential until the very end for those very reasons. Additionally, over the past several years, there have been a trend towards large site selection projects, especially in the industrial sector, driven by a number of factors. Manufacturing investment. The manufacturers are experiencing a surge in investments, leading to higher demand for larger and larger facilities in order to spread out their costs. Also, expanding companies are requiring infrastructure capacity that grows with them as they grow, and so they're looking for key sites where that infrastructure is already in place or is easily added. There's also the availability of the development-ready sites. With all this demand, these larger sites are getting fewer and fewer to be found and to be recognized. Finally, there is the difference between large site investments versus multiple smaller site investments. Again, it's all about scale for a lot of these companies. If you have multiple sites having to run a lot of infrastructure versus one large site, it saves money and makes more sense from the company perspective. The City of Menominee's comprehensive plan acts as the city's blueprint for its future growth and development. Through its adoption in 2016, this area was identified for future industrial growth. Both the city and private companies have been investing in this area based on that plan to support the future growth in this area for quite some time. And finally, the Dunn County Economic Development Partnership, which was formed recently to facilitate business retention, expansion, attraction, along with some other areas, will need land in order to make its goals a reality. This organization is comprised of the Dunn County Economic Development Corporation, the Greater Menomonie Development Corporation, the Stout Technology and Business Park, the County of Dunn, UW-Stout, and the City of Menomonie. And the goal through this partnership is that it aligns strongly and directly with the city's long-range goals within the comprehensive plan. The director works under the oversight of this member entity to add capacity and expertise while positioning Menomonie and the greater Dunn County area for future growth and development opportunities. So I'm asking you tonight to keep in mind that without the land that industry requires, the community will not be able to reach its goals and effectively removes itself from consideration when new opportunities arise. The other thing I want to mention real quick is we've, over the last couple of, I would say 5 to 6 years, we've had 2 rounds of site selectors that have come through this region. Site selector tours, basically. Some of the information actually came from Sarah White, who came through this community about 4 years ago. When they come through, they look for communities that are open for business. Not having land available for those industries has a ripple effect. The site selectors keep track of what communities have what land and who's open and who's willing to work with them. And so you've got to watch out that you wind up not being put on lists that can have the opposite effect. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Seth.
Good evening. Lucy Lammer. My address is E5282, 470th Avenue. So, my family's been here since the 1860s. We're now up to the 5th generation that lives in this community. It's been very important to us forever.
A little bit louder so we can hear you better.
Yes, I will, thank you. We've been here since 1860. I'm 4th generation. We now have 5 generations that are currently even living in Menomonie. So this town and community has always been very, very important to us. The land that's looking at being annexed has been available to annex for several years. It can still wait and be annexed until we have the right business or the right company that we want to come in here. The project has been known to our city and city council that is supposed to represent its citizens for the past almost 2 years. The city should not, in my opinion, be signing do not disclose agreements against its citizens, stating it was done as the company doesn't want its competitors to know is not valid. Why wouldn't we want competition for that space out there and to receive the best deal that we possibly can get? The information that a data center was even being considered or built only came to light for a lot of us 4 or 5 days ago via Facebook. The decision impacts all of Menomonie, not just the families that surround it, but it will impact all of us. The noise, the lights, the pollution, it will affect all of us within the town and outside and other areas. I mean, where I live now, south of town, I found out that they were testing Phelan Park for a water well. Fortunately, it didn't pass, but guess which one did? The one in Wakanda, and that's the well that they would be looking at for this data center. We can hear Butch's Bay from Wakanda Park. We can hear from where I am out by Phelan Park. We can hear the races, everything else. You can't tell me that a data center is not going to have an impact in terms of its lights, in terms of its noise, in terms of everything else that they do. So for a company that's doing a $1.8 billion project, and the only map we got was this to look at as their little map for what it will be, this is more like what a data center looks like. They are big, ugly, tall buildings. They do nothing for a landscape. We have not even talked about an impact study in terms of noise, lights, wildlife. I've seen no environmental impact study even planned. Menomonie will not see any financial benefit from this project for a long, long time. The average data center right now is lasting 10 to 20 years. I believe the TIF district that they're under is going to be like for 25 years, so we won't even see any benefit from that. It's projected to use 500 megawatts of power. That's more than the whole city uses combined. That cost has to be passed on to the citizens at some point. My question is, when were the city residents going to be informed? There's been no open forum, no informational meetings, no public notices. City Council is yet to see a comprehensive plan with 3D renderings, the size of it, the infrastructure, the height of the facility, the impact on our wildlife, groundwater, impact on residents within a 3-mile radius, and impact on the rest of the community 20 miles out. The impact of electrical magnetic frequencies, the constant hum. What's the impact on the other farmers in the area that are there? Their wells, groundwater, and toxins leaching into the ground. I don't want a moratorium. I want a referendum where the whole community can vote whether they want this or not. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chris Corpola. I live at 525 Oak Park Circle here in Menomonie. 3 years ago, when I began serving as the Dunn County Manager, 3 key areas were identified as priorities for my role, one of them being economic development. Early on, I realized just how little many of us, including myself and the county board, understood about the fundamentals of economic development. So I made it a goal to build that understanding from the ground up. I began by engaging in conversations with local and regional partners deeply involved in the economic development space. Those efforts eventually led to the formation of an economic development summit with about a dozen key stakeholders. The outcome of the summit was the creation of the Dunn County Economic Development, Dunn Economic Development, a unique partnership among UW Stout, the City of Menomonie, Dunn County, the Stout Technology and Business Park, and the Greater Menomonie Development Corporation, and the Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. And it's currently led by Executive Director Adam Akula. Why share all of this? Because economic development is critical to the vitality of our community. Nearly 15 years ago, and I actually looked it up, it's really actually almost 20 years ago, it'll be 20 years in 2026, the Wisconsin legislature, with bipartisan support, passed a levy limit law that ties municipal levy increases directly to net new construction. That metric reflects all new construction minus demolitions. In Dunn County, as a countywide, the net new construction growth has averaged about 1.5% annually, meaning that the county can raise its tax levy by roughly 1.5% per year, which translates to about $250,000 of additional revenue. Keeping in mind that those have been in place now for almost 20 years. That's not a lot, and what it means in practical terms is that economic growth is the only sustainable path forward if we want to maintain or improve the services we offer. I trust you as elected officials and decision makers here in the city of Menomonie to carefully weigh the pros and the cons of the requested annexation and rezoning. My only ask is that you remain open to thoughtful growth, to innovative solutions, and to the new possibilities that could strengthen our region. Thank you for your time and the critical work you do.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Charles Warner. I own a home at N6802 539th Street in Menomonie here. And I just moved to town a few years ago, bought a house here, but I went to Stout and I grew up near here. And I've started a family here and I have a lot invested in this town. So that's the personal side. We've heard a lot of arguments personal, a lot of facts tonight. So let's look at some facts. I have a background in supply chain and I'm working on a master's in sustainability. The world can't progress without business, but we also need clean water to drink and clean land to live on, or else we're all going to die, literally, okay? So with those facts stated, let's look at the timeline here, all right? July 24th was the first time that I found that there was a proposed formal recording for these agenda items. Last week, I spoke at the Planning Commission. There was about 30 minutes of comment, a little less than today, obviously, but there was only a small amount of discussion amongst the board before they voted to approve this recommendation. Okay? Second fact here, there has been no publicly made available environmental impact statement, which has been said a few times tonight. The reason this is important is because Wisconsin Environmental Protection Act, Statute 1.112C, states specifically that any rezoning of industrial application that has a significant environmental impact, any activity, requires a robust public review of this assessment. This has not been made public and not been done. Okay, there might be a loophole because of strong business, all right? I understand business is powerful, I get it. But Menomonie has set a precedent. In 2024, in October, for the recycling center down on Highway 29, there was, in fact, an environmental impact study done. This was labeled an environmental analysis. I found it today and reviewed it. I would like this to be done and made public for everybody here to review ahead of time. What do business people like? They like information. You guys are all business people. Do you have the information available to make an informed decision yet? I don't think so. It's been less than 2 weeks since this was proposed publicly. We all need more time to review this. We've heard some great ideas tonight, some filled with passion, some filled with fact. There's just some facts for you guys to please review. I would appreciate that. So I would also like to reiterate that the developer should be funding any utility upgrades. They are very important, and we do need to be looking at water consumption, which obviously that has been mentioned. I'd just like to reiterate that. My last point that I would like to make tonight is these businesses bring immense profits to the area. They bring profits to themselves. All right? Taxes is not simply enough. A gentleman earlier spoke about how there might be tax loopholes that they won't have to pay. That is very important, okay? So we need to capitalize for the city of Menomonie in other ways. I have a child that's going to be in the school system here in not long. I would like to see some education funds started, maybe a park sponsorship, community fund, anything that we can get back in writing, binding arbitration from this organization. Secrecy, great. It's needed, like the gentleman from Stout mentioned. I get it. I understand the business side of that. Makes sense. But also, we as the community members have a right to know things. We have a right to review things. And you guys please need to do your due diligence to spend the right amount of time. As you can see, a lot of community members care about this, and that's all I ask. Thank you, guys.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Buck, and I'm an attorney at Quarles & Brady, and I'm here tonight representing Balloonist and urging you to vote in support of both the annexation and the rezoning. Thank you.
That's it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Akala. I live at 1411 Wilson Street in Eau Claire, and I'm the Director of Economic Development for Dunn County. I'm here tonight to speak on item 3A and the proposed rezoning of land next to the North Industrial Park, and to add some additional context regarding business attraction. In my role, I monitor economic trends and position our county to win new business investment. One such trend is the inability of current employers to expand their workforce, and so seeking large employers while external factors inhibit existing industrial expansion is counterintuitive, as it could cannibalize our existing industry. Over the last year, and especially in the last 6 months, I've also witnessed a dramatic shift in the types of opportunities coming to Wisconsin. The small requests for information, or RFIs, have slowed. The market has changed, and the majority of inquiries now coming through the state's economic development channels are from large companies looking to save costs and maximize benefits by consolidating operations into large, project-ready tracts of land. This isn't a hypothetical trend, it's our current reality, and right now, Menomonie is on the sidelines. Let me give you some concrete data. Since March of this year, Dunn County has received RFIs for industrial projects requiring 75 to 100 acres, which was later modified to 150 to 200 acres. Another for 100 acres. A third for 125 to 450 acres. A fourth for over 60 acres. And just last month, a fifth for over 240 acres. I do want to be clear that these are all now lost opportunities that, when received, often have very fast turnaround times of only a few days. They are no longer active. However, these 5 opportunities represent more than 60% of all the industrial prospects we have seen since March. The message from the market is clear. Companies are looking for space. The hard truth is that we are not equipped to compete for these projects. Available parcels in the industrial park have been mentioned by previous speakers. If land is privately owned, it is up to the owners to position it for sale if they so desire. Also, there is currently vacant land that is tied up with other arrangements, like the 30 acres in the North Industrial Park, available for purchase by SPA Properties authorized earlier this year. The City of Menominee's largest city-owned contiguous industrial parcel is approximately 73 acres. Based on the current inventory, we were only positioned to seriously respond to one of the 5 major inquiries I previously mentioned. We are being passed over for communities that are simply better prepared. Furthermore, this is not a random act. This is a logical, strategic decision that builds on years of careful planning. As your own meeting packet confirms, this area is designated as future industrial in the city's comprehensive plan. This location is also strategically positioned next to significant road and utility infrastructure upgrades that our community has already made to support industrial growth. Economic development is a highly competitive process, and having development-ready land is key to seizing on opportunities once they arise. To win the jobs and investment of tomorrow, we must have the foresight to prepare today. This annexation and rezone is our opportunity to do just that. It's the single most important step that we can take to ensure the future economic prosperity of Menomonie. This is why the proposal before you tonight is so critical. It's not just about one project, it's about making Menomonie competitive for the next project and the one after that. Annexing and rezoning this land creates the very asset that the market is demanding. It allows us to get back in the game. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, public hearing is still open. Anybody like to speak?
Good evening. I'm Bob Cook. I'm the chairman in the town of Red Cedar. And I had some notes here, but what I'm learning here tonight, I'd like to go off script a little bit here. Adam, what you see as an opportunity, the town of Red Cedar sees as a problem, because we consider ourselves to be a rural agricultural community. On our website, it states that we are a local community in Dunn County. We have rolling lands, hills and lands, rivers, and prairie. There was talk here tonight about how much money would the city get out of this for taxes. Well, nobody seems to know that. And if you look at things that have happened in the area in the past, this is kind of like the flavor of the month, data centers. The city spoke of, Adam spoke of that 29 or 30 acre parcel in the industrial park, and nothing has come of that yet. Why not? There are other sites in the industrial park. There is the 3M land. They've been trying to sell that because they don't want to put crops on it anymore because they're worried that animals might ingest something from the crops that came from the PFAS that's in the soil, so they don't want to put crops on it. They want to plant it to wildflowers and prairie grass. Well, you cannot turn back the hands of time. The wildflowers that once were here, long gone with the settlers that came in. And once these were all wheat fields out here. When the wheat crops turned bad, the farmers went to agricultural, smaller crops with dairy cattle. The milk prices and that turned down, and now they're back to crop farming again in large equipment. When I farmed, it was 50 horsepower tractors and a 1-row corn picker. Now it's 300 horsepower tractors, 40-foot headers, and semi-trailers hauling the crops away. How do you expect to continue to feed the world when you have only thing left is the scraps of land, small acreages, 3-cornered fields, unirrigated? The land we're dealing with out here in Red Cedar is the best soil in Dunn County. You add water to it and anything will grow. And it's in large tracts. You can go out there with a combine and run a half a mile and have to have 3 grain carts out there to take delivery from the combine. In my lifetime, I've seen the city gobble up the land in Menomonie across from Richard's Implement where the Flat Top Cafe used to be. Maybe some of you know that place. They just kept moving east. It was the hospital, the nursing home, the county building. All of this has taken up our best farmland. So I don't know what you expect us to do in the future if we can't run our larger farm machinery. Do we give it all to the city? We've had several developments in the area. The sand mine, that was going to go great guns. That was the flavor of the month. What's it doing now? Very, very little. There were sand mines all around the area. Almost all of them are closed. They wanted to put a sand mine in Hoffman Hills. Town of Red Cedar residents did not want to see that. They did not want that pristine land destroyed. What the town of Red Cedar envisioned, under pressure from the city of Menomonie, we together went looking at our land and decided that along Highway B is probably suited for some other purpose besides agriculture in the future. But what we envisioned were smaller mom and pop businesses, repair shops, some kind of a retail outlet or something, because we have the best road infrastructure there. We did not foresee 324 acres going under concrete. I think it's wrong. Dunn County says it's a rural agricultural community. Town of Red Cedar says that. Randy, your farm used to be under the plow. You are not stewards of the land. We did not foresee our land becoming an extension of the city industrial park. We had a gentleman's agreement, which apparently I didn't understand gentleman's agreement. I thought when someone approached the city wanting to install something perhaps in the town of Red Cedar, that we would discuss it. And I know that I'm old and I'm naive, but people my age in my town are used to dealing with their neighbors face to face. And your word is good. So we agreed with the city that should be some kind of an industrial use along Highway B. We never foresaw 324 acres in a chunk going away like this, and I'm really disappointed in it. I'm glad for Ron Prochnow. He's been a friend of mine all my life. And if anybody deserves the money, I guess he does. But I sure don't like the way this has gone about. I've resigned myself to the fact that this is going to happen because you're just going to rubber stamp, just like every other organization, every other governmental body. So I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I wanted the chance to look at the people in the eye who think that this is a good idea. So when I can tell them later on that, yeah, this really worked out good. Glad you took 324 acres of our good farmland, and I hope you go hungry. Thank you.
Well, my name's Pam Entorf, and I live at N7329 494th Street, so about 2 miles from where this is proposed. And first of all, thank you, city council members and the mayor. I do support economic development and growth in Menomonie. I've lived here most of my life. I grew up on Stout campus. I've been at CVTC. I just think we do need to grow as a community. However, I have several concerns. Number one, as city council members, I hope that you're not just, as I've talked to several of you, it's the same repeated talking points that you probably got from Balloonist and other meetings. Have you done your due diligence? Have you done the research that many people came here and did? Have you looked at all of this? Balloonist is an LLC out of Singapore, and it's listed as an event planning company. So I think, I mean, and again, that's public knowledge. You can look at it. I believe we do need to develop the land. It's been developed, but we need to look at, I guess I'm opposed more for the IA portion of it. I did pull a couple things, and it was right out of AI, and the negatives and positives. If you look at where the largest data centers are, it's in Virginia. And it's right next to Washington, D.C., 30 miles out. They have over 600 plants. Wisconsin currently has 40, Minnesota 60. I think one of the issues with Wisconsin versus Minnesota and some other states is we have very little regulation for EPA, land management, making sure we do our due diligence. So I would just ask all of you as city council members that you do your research. My big concern is the lack of transparency. How many people in the city of Menomonie knew that this was going on? I think you need to, in all of your districts or your wards, you need to have town hearings, town meetings. You need to open it up to the public. And I agree we should have a referendum. If it passes, great. If that's what Menomonie thinks needs to happen, great. But I think it needs to be done in a manner in which everybody has a voice, because it affects the entire city. But we do need economic growth for Menomonie to continue to grow. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I am Terrell Zeke. I'm employed by Xcel Energy and live in my office at 1414 West Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire.
Xcel Energy.
Sorry, I'm employed by, I'll try to raise this up a little bit here. Employed by Xcel Energy out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I am the Regional Vice President of Regulatory Policy for Xcel Energy, representing customers in Wisconsin and Michigan. Regulatory policy, that means my job is three things. One, to make sure we follow the rules of our state, federal, and regional regulators. Secondly, my job is to make sure we're charging just and reasonable rates to all of our customers, including new customers. And third, and finally, my job is to plan for the future, new resources, and to ensure we have adequate capacity to serve existing customers and new customers to ensure safety and reliability. Xcel Energy and Menomonie have long been key partners in economic development and the success of the region. Through our partnership at the Stout Technology Park, to our commitment to safe and reliable and sustainable grid, Xcel Energy and the City of Menomonie have worked together to make this region a great place to live, work, and thrive. We appreciate the discussion from the community on the proposed data center development, and would like to provide some background on how Xcel Energy we approach data center customers and the benefits of growing the regional economy. It's important to note that modern data centers are much more than just buildings. They've become critical infrastructure in the backbone of our modern digital economy, supporting everything from transportation to medicine to small business. Xcel Energy already serves data centers in 3 states, Texas, Minnesota, and Colorado. And we look to bring the positive experiences from those projects to this project and others in Wisconsin. And as we as a utility look at how we serve these future businesses, we know that the state of Wisconsin has a robust legal framework already in place to determine the prudency of utility, electric and natural gas utility investments, infrastructure investments needed to serve data centers and other large customers. While Wisconsin law requires us to serve any customer seeking to interconnect to the grid, regardless of size, it also allows us to ensure that adequate protections are in place to provide affordable, safe, and reliable electricity for all customers before allowing interconnections to the grid. We do this through strong contractual safeguards that meet the legal requirements, the existing legal requirements in Wisconsin statute, that new customers impose no negative impacts on other customers. This includes reliability, safety, and affordability. When large loads seek to interconnect to the grid, we conduct detailed studies to assess their impact and determine the necessary infrastructure upgrades to serve the loads. It is important to understand that the costs of the necessary upgrades are borne entirely by the customer seeking to interconnect. Entirely by the customer seeking to interconnect. During this time, we also evaluate our ability to generate adequate electricity before allowing the interconnections. Lastly, the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, our primary regulator on rates and construction in Wisconsin, regulates Xcel Energy's utility investments and rates, and that regulation includes a robust customer notification and public hearing process for all infrastructure investments that are necessary. As the nation continues to grow, Xcel Energy remains committed to meeting our industry-leading carbon-free energy goals. This includes our role as the first utility in the country to set a goal of 100% carbon-free electric generation by 2050 and 80% carbon-free by 2030. We're already over 60% of the way there. And we're proud to continually align with Menomonie and other communities on energy action plans that allow our local communities to become involved in that energy planning on a local and community level. And we're proud to coordinate with the city and stakeholders to develop that energy action plan here in Menomonie. In conclusion, Xcel Energy is dedicated to leading the way while maintaining our commitment to reliability, affordability, and supporting the economic vitality of the communities we serve. We're excited about the future and the positive impact this potential customer could have to the region and making a transformational economic impact in the communities we serve. We recognize that today's section is not focused on energy, but zoning and annexation. However, since our organization has been mentioned several times, tonight we wanted to provide some education into Wisconsin's energy and regulatory landscape as it relates to energy, which differs from other states being discussed. We would welcome the opportunity to return at a future date to address energy-specific questions. Thank you all for the time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Tara.
Hi, my name is Jan Pesikirgis, and I live on the south side, 421 24th Street North. I live on the south side where we have a hospital and a nursing home, and a lot of people, and pets, and children. Some daycare centers, an abuse shelter. What do all those things have in common? Water. I'll start again with the hospital, the nursing home, etc. That's my concern. Some people are talking tonight about an opportunity. Sounds more like an invasion, a Trojan horse. My big line for the night was going to be Foxconn. Been there, done that, right? These people come to town, and by these people I say, these people, nobody's talked about who they are. Who in this room would hire a babysitter who came to the door with a shotgun? And you had no way to talk to the previous people who hired them or the condition of their children. Think about it.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Frank, the Chancellor of UW Stout at 712 South Broadway Street in Menomonie. And having UW Stout, the state's only polytechnic university located in Menomonie, uniquely positions the community to grow and to attract industry. And as you have heard tonight, industry needs the right mix of land, infrastructure capacity, and access to an educated workforce. And the land recommended for annexation and rezoning will provide this. UW Stout functions according to 3 educational tenets: applied learning, career focus, and business and industry collaboration. We are known for our career placement rate, 99% within 6 months of graduation from Stout in a student's field of study, which is unmatched by any university or technical college in the state. Collaboration with business and industry is absolutely essential to our educational philosophy and career placement success. Stout engages with industry to bring real-world learning into the classroom and to provide as many local internships, cooperative learning experiences, and applied research opportunities as possible for our students while they are enrolled. And when students have the opportunity to connect in meaningful ways with employers during their educational journey, they are more likely to consider job opportunities with that employer following graduation. Currently, our university has more than 700 business and industry partners. UW Stout graduates are in demand. They have employment options. If we want to retain UW Stout graduates in our community, then we need to provide them with attractive and competitive employment options and a vibrant community in which to reside. Therefore, UW Stout supports strategic economic development efforts in our community. For UW Stout, successful economic development efforts help to expand our network of local business and industry partners, contribute to learning, and provide job opportunities for our graduates. This, in turn, leads to greater possibilities for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Public hearing portion is still open. If anybody else like to speak, now is your opportunity to do so. Please come forward.
My name is Wes Oberlein. I live at 109 15th Street Southeast here in Menomonie.
Excuse me, could you give us your name again, sir?
Sorry.
Could you give us your name again? It didn't come through on the microphone. What was your name?
Oh, my name is Wes Oberlein.
Wes, okay, thank you.
You guys had a lot to process here, not only last week, but even more so this week. I too have listened to both sessions, and it's a bit overwhelming to some degree. Now, my impression is that, first of all, follow the money. Who benefits? I read in Business Weekly that 10 states that have AI centers have the surrounding communities, their electric bill went up 20 to 24%, all of them. I don't think that's a perk that we need here in Menomonie. To me, it's like comparing, well, I won't compare. I don't think the employment is going to last that long. I think it's temporary, short term. The infrastructure for the electrical grid, it's not strong enough to sustain this. And I'm hearing that they're going to stay with, or they're going to talk to Xcel Energy about how to create this energy. Hopefully it's not to take more farmland and convert it into solar fields. That wouldn't work very well. So those are some of the reasons that are in opposition. So in the spirit of brevity, I'll explain a reason for accepting this proposed annexation. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Hello, my name is Luann Prochnow, E6396 610th Avenue, Menomonie. I live less than 2 miles from the proposed site. I live less than a half a mile from our industrial park. Many of you are my age, so you understand that our whole industrial park was farmland. My husband, his home farm is here. He's been here 72 years. He used to bale hay where the hospital is now. And I understand everybody's passion because everything that came into the industrial park, I was to meetings like this. And everybody has that sense like what's going to change, and it's a lot of the unknowns. The reason cities and townships and private industry, nonprofits have 10 years plans is because you want to guide your development, you want to create more sustainable growth, and you want to minimize sprawl. Now this proposed site, and I thank you all because I've been on a lot of 10-year plans and it's months, it's not just days and weeks of planning. The proposed site, where else can you go? I mean, we've got to the south you can't go. That's, how many plants there? You can't go to the west. That's homes. And so this fits in the plan with not only what Red Cedar has, but what the city's long-term 10-year plan is. We're talking about annexing and zoning. I-1 is the most restrictive zone you have, which is wonderful. I'm okay with that. The city will still have control of, do we have enough green space? We're going to getting taxes in. A well-planned land use attracts new business, creates jobs, and it makes sure that our community has economic vitality. As the one gentleman was talking about, yes, we do have small parcels in the city, but who wants to build on 70 acres? I worked for 3M for 15 years. Do you know what the original plot was that they bought? 500 acres. I don't even know how much the Walmart distribution plan has, but I know it's not 70 acres. I mean, look at what our opportunities our community has for growth. We still farm, our kids farm with us, and we're going to stay farming probably till they put us under the farm. So, we love our community. We want what's best for it. We need growth. We need economic advancement. So I vote you all to vote yes. It's been in your long-term plan. It's been in the Red Cedar long-term plan. And even if the data center doesn't come in, I mean, there's so many hoops to jump through. We don't know if it's going to be a data center. But it's just something to leave you with. If it's not annexed to the city, we could sell it to a farmer that has 3,000 pigs. Just saying. You know, this is your chance to keep other things out. So I thank you all for your time. I know you've got a hard job, and I appreciate your listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Luann.
My name is Kat Henderson. I live right across the street on 708th Avenue. And I just, short and sweet, I fully believe in, building the economics of the city of Menomonie. But I just strongly feel that this isn't the right time to vote yes. We don't have enough information. We don't know who it is that's coming in. We don't know what their track record is. We don't know if they're going to live up to what they have proposed. There are so many unknowns, and there's been so much misinformation that's gone out, or lack of information that's gone out. I think we need to rectify that and come up with a plan so that we can make a good decision on how to move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Mayor, point of order? Yes, Matthew, go ahead, please.
How long is public hearing scheduled for under council rules?
Let Ben answer that.
There's no limit on it.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing is still open. If anybody would like to come to speak, please do it at this time. I'm going to go with last call for public hearing on this particular hearing portion. If anybody else would like to come up and speak, now is your last opportunity to do so. One last time. Anybody want to speak in public hearing? Come on forward. No?
My name is Ron Prochnow, East 6396, 610th Avenue, Menomonie. Part of the property is what I own there. That I've been approached by many other businesses and stuff about that property. I choose not to sell it. I wanted something that was low on pollution and wasn't crowding we have major traffic problems out there at time to go to work, time to go home from work. And this seemed to fit what I envision, for a place to sell it to. A lot of people spoke tonight about, they didn't like this and they didn't like this. Well, at one time, I farmed the land up to Prospect Realty Road that goes up to the water tower. All that stuff east of there, I used to farm from the Stout Foundation and the Dale Farm. I farmed everything out to Jay. I farmed, when I was a kid, my dad farmed the Wilski Bay Road down to Wilski Bay. Everything where all the hospitals and all the people built in there. We didn't farm the county hospital farmed that themselves. 3M, I farmed that up till the year before they built there. And I remember when that come, I remember as far as the farming community questioned why they needed so much land to build a plant for 3M. But, there was people against that, there was people for it. And, any of that land that you go on that east side of the river or the lake, Mr. Knackt's dad owned a quarter section in there, very high productive land. And it was always hard for my dad, my uncle, and our family to watch that land diminish into development. But that's kind of the way things go. When the population grows, they got to have a place to work. And there's got to be a place to build workplaces for these people. So, and then I guess everything that was been built over there, I could say, I don't want that, I don't want that. I don't want the Walmart distribution center because the late, we don't even hardly have a yard light at our place because, just the industrial parks moved out there with all the light. You don't go walk around at night and don't have to worry about it. But that's, and I'm on the planning commission at Red Cedar Township, and that's something that Sue Harrison worked very hard on to put this together along with the city And that was where you guys had your sickles and your plots, or where you wanted to expand as the land got used up. On the west side of B was to go over the other side of B and along that corridor line. And the reason I think people are after that, we got the railroad, we got the interstate, we got a good county road, we got water and sewer out there, you know. So if you're gonna change your direction, go a different direction, someone has to spend a lot of money to develop that. And sure, I mean, I can hear at night, I can hear semi-trailers getting latched onto at Walmart all the time. You know, what do? You know, that's just the way it is. That's what came into our community for jobs. But one thing, I really think that, from what I understand, I'm not positive on that, there's gonna be some very high-paying jobs once that gets done to control that outfit, which we don't have a lot of those jobs, high-paying jobs in industrial park now. Yes, we have a few of them, but mainly it's labor, you know, of warehouse labor, load and unload trucks over there, so. But, you know, I would hope you guys I think it's an opportunity to, if you're gonna expand, that's probably an opportunity. You got 3 people that are willing to go along with this, and it'll be an opportunity, and you guys made the plan along that Highway B corridor along there, so I don't know, I guess, you know, I'm for it. If it would have been a different kind of business, I was against some stuff at the beginning, and I have been approached with very many people that it's something that I didn't want to see in my community, for my neighbors or for myself. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Ron. Appreciate you coming up. Okay, I guess, again, we're at the last call for our public hearing, for this portion of our public hearing. If anybody would like to come up and speak, please do so at this time. Second last call. Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing portion of that particular issue, and we're gonna move on to our public hearing of the next issue. Ben, I'm gonna let you, are you prepared to introduce? Okay. Actually, I'm gonna introduce this, and then we're gonna turn it over to Dave to tee it up, if that would be okay. The public hearing regarding proposed ordinance 2025-06, an ordinance rezoning certain lands along 21st Street Northeast and 7th Avenue Northeast, Menomonie Alliance Church, from single-family residential R1 to local commercial B2. Mr. Schofield, if you please tee us up on the information needed. Thank you.
Yes. Similar to the previous public hearing, this is a proposed public hearing on a proposed rezone of the Alliance Church property. At this point, the property owner and the prospective leaseor have proposed to use the existing building. They're not proposing at this point to expand that building or build anything in addition to what's already there. We did send out public notices to all the property owners within 350 feet, and we published a Class 2 notice to notify folks of this public hearing tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schofield. Do you have anything to add?
I do not, Mayor.
Thank you. So at this time, then, we would open up the public hearing for this particular item. And again, the same rules would present themselves as the first public hearing. So at this time, then, if you'd like to come up and speak on this, please come up to the podium, give us your name and address, and we'll move forward. So public hearing is now open.
No.
Hi, my name is Lee Theron, 620 Fagstad Street, and we're right adjacent to the Alliance Church. A notice came out from the Alliance Church preceding the notice that came out for this hearing, quite a while ahead of that, talking about creating a daycare at the church, and also that YMCA was going to be involved with it. And so I've talked to a lot of neighbors, and a lot of neighbors don't really understand a lot of what's going on because there's a lot of information and we don't know everything about the plan. But what's happened is that somehow, in order to have their daycare, they believe you have to zone that property as commercial. That's not a good move, okay? Now, I appreciate everybody here on the city council. You've been through a hearing this is the second part of a hearing. You've already been through a hearing. I don't envy your job one bit, but I'm thanking you for doing your job. Part of your job is to see that our city is taken care of properly. Now, when you take residential property, and it's a nice neighborhood, we've lived there for 9 years, and all the neighbors that I've talked to like the neighborhood because it's residential. Then you go and put commercial in the middle of it, you're changing the neighborhood. I've also found out that once you turn a property into commercial, it can never go back to residential. Okay? People at the Alliance Church, I think, are believing that this is just a temporary thing because this daycare is a temporary thing. They have no intention of putting in any businesses or selling to a business that would actually, open up business in a commercial way in the neighborhood. I say you don't go about it that way to make commercial zoning just to have a daycare. You can give me some options. I haven't heard of any other options, but there must be some conditional use situation that you have the power to create to allow some daycare use, whether it's temporary or permanent, without making that neighborhood commercial. And I want to ask each and every one of you if you would like to have commercial adjacent to where you live in this city. So I want you to consider options. I and all of the neighbors that I've talked with are not against the daycare. We're against commercial zoning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
I'm John England, resident at N4722 455th Street in Menomonie. Just want to thank you for the opportunity to get in front of you guys tonight. Recognize the important role clearly of both of these topics that you guys play in shaping the direction of the community. Your work doesn't go unnoticed, and we appreciate your time and leadership. It's now after 9 o'clock, so all of you have things to go home for, and I appreciate your patience with all of this. I'm here this evening on behalf of the YMCA to speak very specific and urgent need in our community, the lack of accessible and affordable high-quality child care. It's not just a concern that we at the Y have identified. It's an issue that has been raised several different times, but most notably for us was the Chamber of Commerce seminar hosted at Bill's Distributing a few months ago. Business leaders, state economic experts, and families all voiced the same reality. Menomonie is facing a child care crisis. Employers are struggling to retain workers. Parents are juggling impossible schedules, and children are missing out on vital early development opportunities. At the YMCA, we see this need every day, and we believe that we are uniquely positioned and called to respond. The YMCA is a mission-driven nonprofit that exists to serve families and strengthen communities. With that mission in mind, we are seeking to utilize an existing facility in the Menomonie Alliance Church and a former school to offer low-cost, high-quality care for families who desperately need it. That is our singular focus in making this request. I want to be clear, this rezoning request is not about opening the door to unlimited commercial development. It's not speculative. We are not developers. We are community servants. This project is purpose-driven and tightly focused on addressing a well-documented, widely shared community need. That said, I want to acknowledge the main concern that was previously raised at the last Plan Commission meeting, specifically that the land is rezoned commercial. It could, and in the future, be used for any number of commercial purposes, potentially changing the character of the area. This is a fair and understandable concern, and that is why we, together with the Menomonie Alliance Church, the property owner, have submitted the joint letter to this council to reaffirm our shared commitment. I was going to read it. You guys are welcome to. It addresses just that. In essence, the Alliance Church and the YMCA have said if at any point this partnership ceases, the Alliance Church has signed saying that they would go through this exact same process to rezone it back to R1. The letter makes clear that both the YMCA and Menomonie Alliance Church are aligned in the purpose and principle. This is not a transaction, it is a mission. We are fully committed to ensuring that this land, if rezoned, is used to serve the families of Menomonie in a way that respects and protects the surrounding residential neighborhood. This project is not about the land use, it's about opportunity for children to learn, for parents to work, and for the Menomonie community to continue growing as a vibrant and supportive place to live and raise family. So tonight we respectfully ask that you approve this rezone request, not for the sake of the YMCA, but for the sake of the many families in our community who are currently without viable childcare options. Thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Good evening. My name is Diane Marcil. I live at 708 21st Street North, directly across from the Alliance Church, what I would call more of their campground area, so on 7th. And I have always considered myself to be a friend of the church. They do good work. They're good neighbors. They have outdoor activities. And they were in the neighborhood before I was in the neighborhood. And I'm glad to share the neighborhood with them. In addition to the church, we have Point Comfort Park as you go down 21st Street, where we also have boaters and park enthusiasts and children and families. So we have a great neighborhood to live in. We also have moderate priced housing. So people that are my age that would eventually leave houses that don't really accommodate us as we necessarily get older are the perfect houses for young families to buy, and they're affordable. They're very moderately priced houses. So I recognize that we need affordable daycare in our city, and I support our families in our city, and I support the church. I also support affordable housing in our city, and these are 4 residential lots. They are zoned residential. We need housing. They could be developed. And so to turn them into a commercial property for the purpose, or zone them for commercial, we don't know what's the access point. Is it on 7th? There's no, if it was to be developed in the future, there's no good way to access it. On 21st, there's all the boats and people that come up the hill on 21st. It intersects with 7th. That's all the people on 24th. And then there's the Fagstead people and all the people along 21st. It's just a safety. And I think childcare, safety, families, they all kind of come together to make a good neighborhood. So I would ask you to consider a variance for Alliance Church, an exception of some sort that they could partner with the Y, which would deliver beautiful daycare services to children. And no one in the neighborhood I've talked to has any objection. Not traffic, not dropping off. No one has objections to children in our neighborhood. I would ask for an exception rather than rezoning it commercial, because it's one thing to say we could rezone it back to residential in the future, but would that in fact happen? We can't guarantee that. You can't guarantee that. Who would know when that would ever come before a council to consider again, and what the logistics are of all that? So I would respectfully ask on behalf of myself and the other Friends of Alliance Church, supporters of youth, supporters of families, lovers of our neighborhood, to consider some sort of variance exception. Put a time limit on if you want with Alliance, or don't put a time limit on it, but allow the partnership to go forward without rezoning. And if it is to be rezoned, I really think a zoning administration should answer the questions. How do you access the property for zoning? 21st Street, 7th, what are the size of the building that could be put in that property? So I think what Lee Theron and I are asking is just make an exception. And I appreciate your time this evening, and also, again, friend of the Alliance Church, neighborhood person, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Tripp. I live at 621 Fagstead Street. Been there for 22 years. And essentially, I'm going to echo what Lee Theron and Diane Mersel have already said. I recognize the need for quality daycare. I'm a big fan of the YMCA. I appreciate the church as a neighbor, and again, they've been there longer than I have. But it's the rezone that really makes neighbors nervous. Zoning offers people a guarantee that when they buy a piece of property, they know what they're going to get. Rezoning means that those things now change, and the property owners are going to live with the consequences, whether they be positive or negative. We need to think about the potential for what might happen. I appreciated the spokesman from the YMCA tonight. He said one of the points that I was going to make. He and the church pretty much guarantee that they are never going to do anything other than operate a daycare. If the property is rezoned to a limited commercial, there are a lot of potential uses, but I believe he is absolutely honest and sincere when he makes that pledge that only a daycare will be there. However, I tried to look at the city statutes. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Chapter 10-12-1, conditionally permitted uses. The following would be allowed in the neighborhood if this rezoning were to take place: automobile sales and service, small engine repair, dance halls, pool halls, skating rinks, commercial recreation other than a fitness center, drive-in restaurants, refreshment stands, gasoline stations, hotels and motels. These are all allowable. I'm reasonably convinced that none of them would happen, but zoning gives me a guarantee they won't. If you rezone, my guarantee is gone. I looked a little bit further, and there's a planning kind of thing that I don't quite understand, but it's in chapter 10-18-4-1, and it lists the following uses that could be permitted, and that includes bed and breakfast establishments, hotels and inns, cafes, coffee shops, bars, and pubs. Now, anybody that knows me knows I got nothing against a bar. But I don't want one across the street from my house. We live in a residential neighborhood. We've got zoning that guarantees it'll stay that way, and what you're asking is change that. If you change that, no matter what the good intentions of the church and the YMCA are, the potential for change is something that the neighbors will live with. So I tried to imagine the worst case scenario. You ready for this? Oh, by the way, Diane Mercer mentioned the 4 lots that are on the north end of the property along 7th Avenue. If they were removed from this rezoning effort, I would feel a lot more comfortable. Okay? Because if that property were to be rezoned, and then if development were to take place, my certainty would be it would be along that 7th Avenue property where those 4 lots are. But anyway, I told you I imagine the worst-case scenario. So a few years from now, the Alliance Church suffers from a catastrophic financial event, and they have to raise money. They raise money by selling those 4 lots Avenue to a developer who builds a mini mall that includes a gun shop, porn store, tattoo parlor, vape shop, and a daycare center. Right now, the zoning laws give us guarantees that that won't happen. What you're asking to do is take away those guarantees. Okay? I want you to think very carefully about that, as I know you will. But when you make the decision, one of the things I hope you'll consider is exempting those 4 lots along 7th Avenue from this change, which I think could be done. I don't know anything about zoning maps, but they are listed independently, so I think that could happen. Okay? Thank you for your time and efforts, and I don't wish you, or I wish you very good luck. I'm glad I don't have your job. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. My name is Cindy Theron, and I live on Fagstead Street, directly across the parking lot from the Alliance Church. And just kitty corner from the 4 lots that are now residential that the church is proposing be business. And I love my neighborhood. I love all our neighbors. We walk around the neighborhood all the time. There are children walking there. I'm concerned if we've got some commercial lots there. These little kids on their bikes, they go up 21st or Fagstead, and they're perfectly safe. It's going to ruin the whole nature of our neighborhood and will cause me to consider probably moving. We're very good citizens of Menomonie, and we're happy being here. But when we bought our home 9 years ago, it was in a residential area. And that's what my concern is. And I have the same concern. I don't know if it's possible for these 4 lots to be separate from the church. There's quite a bit of land there. And is it the whole church that's going to be zoned commercial, or just these 4 lots, and that's not where they're building the daycare? There's concerns that we don't have answers as community members, but all of our neighbors that we talk to are quite concerned about it. So I hope you'll give it sincere consideration and think about your own neighborhood where you live, and if you want some business just across the street. I appreciate the work you do. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Cindy.
That's my husband. If someone wants to speak, I could sit down and put my name down. Would you like me to do that? I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Derek White. I'm the president and CEO for the YMCA of the Chippewa Valley, address 700 Graham Avenue, Eau Claire. In October of 2022, a young guy from the East Coast flew into Minneapolis and drove from the airport to Eau Claire thinking there was never a shot in getting a job as a CEO. My wife's from the Midwest, so we really desired to move closer to her family. As I drove down the highway, I passed Menomonie, and like all small towns I go through, I look up to see if there's a YMCA or a recreation center, and I was shocked to find out that there is not. And since that time, matter of fact, I said to my wife as we were driving, one day there'll be a YMCA here. We continued to drive into Eau Claire, and we drove to the south side of Eau Claire. My wife had a house picked out already, which I wisely decided that we should go check out. And another facility was there that I said, that would be a great YMCA one day, and we have spoken that into existence as well. And so I firmly believe that bringing a YMCA to all communities and bringing accessible programming for childcare, not only childcare, but also mental and physical health is something that the YMCA is called to do. We did a feasibility study, and it feels really awkward because I really want to address these people. You are the residents. They're bringing up such great feedback. In December of 2024, the YMCA conducted a feasibility study around bringing a full facility YMCA to Menomonie. And we surveyed over 1,000 families. Some of you may actually have received a phone call or an email. And the response rate was overwhelmingly positive. About 95% of people said, we need something like a YMCA in this community. And we eagerly have pursued that. John England, the gentleman that said, I honestly believe that what he's saying is true. That is who I believe I'm getting as well. This guy speaks with his heart. He has love and compassion for this community, and I'm glad to call him a friend. After conducting that survey, our YMCA went into negotiations to build a presence in this community, and I'm pleased to say that we were able to purchase John's facilities and have John come alongside that with us because he truly is a great Christian man that cares for this community. All that's to say is I want to validate the concerns that you have. I'm a father of 4. I live in a residential area as well, and I understand the comments that are being made. There's some things that I think we need to clarify as well. One, we want to partner with an organization that already has the spaces available. To build a child care center similar to what we're looking to run out of Alliance Church would cost roughly $3 million. And we want to raise money for a YMCA in Menomonie. We are working hard towards that. However, if we're able to partner with other organizations to serve the needs of this community, we will do so first. And that shows through our partnership with the Menomonie Soccer Alliance, the Menomonie Basketball Alliance that we've been working with, and also with Alliance Church. Our goal is to partner, not to compete, but to partner. The reasons that rezoning is required is simply to ensure affordability for families. We can run childcare unlicensed, but in order to receive government assistance, which families desperately need in order to pay for childcare, the zoning must change in order for us to qualify for that. Otherwise, families are forced to pay the full price of childcare and not receive that affordability from the state and that assistance from the state. All you have is our word. We are not an organization that is hiding behind an LLC. We are here, standing in front of you, giving our word that we will do everything in our power if things change to ensure that the zoning requirements would change right back to what they were. Our goal is to build a permanent presence here. In order to do so, we need to build programs and services within this community, and doing so in partnership with others is of the utmost importance. I would love nothing more than to have coffee with each one of you, and I respect you guys so much. As somebody that has looked and thought about running for civic engagement myself, these are the days that you say, man, that time commitment's really challenging. So thank you guys for your service. Thank you guys for your commitment to this community. And I hope nothing more, if you take nothing less than this, it's just that the YMCA really desires to serve this community and build a presence. And I hope you guys will approve this rezoning request so that we can start to do that here. Thank you.
Okay, public hearing is still open. If you'd like to come speak on this particular item, please come forward. Last call for public hearings. One last call. Anybody like to speak in this public hearing? Come forward at this time. Okay, we're going to close this particular public hearing also and move on with the rest of our meeting. Public comments. Public comments is a portion of our meeting where anybody can speak 3 minutes or less on agenda items for the evening. The agenda items that will be covered under this public comment are the ones that were not covered in the public hearing portion of our meeting. So at this time, if you'd like to come forward, give us your name and your address, and you would like to speak about other items on the agenda this evening, you would have up to 3 minutes to do so. So at this time, please come forward, give us your name and address, and speak in public comments. Public comments is now open. Last call for public comments. Anybody like to speak in public comments? Now is your opportunity to do so. Okay, we're going to close public comments and move on with the rest of our meeting. That brings us down to old business. 5A, Proposed ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance annexing certain lands along County Trunk B between 658th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, 690th Avenue from the town of Red Cedar, and establishing a temporary agricultural zoning district. So, Eric, I think I'm gonna hand it off to you to get us started.
Yeah, so a couple things to really bear in mind, and then I'm gonna ask Ben to step in with a few statements, is that 5A and 5B that are presented in front of you are intertwined together. And so as the developers and the sellers are requesting that, if you're gonna decide in favor of one, decide in favor of the other. If you are not in favor of one, don't approve of one, and then decline the other. And then Ben, can you speak about that a little bit further?
Yeah, just want to say, like Eric indicated, they are intertwined together for discussion purposes on this. David is going to introduce and discuss both matters on 5A and 5B. Council can have discussion on both, and we will take up the annexation first, then move into the rezone. Since they are intertwined and interconnected on the discussion on both.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Eric. David Schofield, if you bring us up to speed, please.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'm going to share the screen here, mostly because I'm not very photogenic, and also there's some information in the packet that I wanted to share. So the property owners on that property, Nicholas Rosbach, Ron Prochnow, West Prairie Farms LLC, Red Cedar Produce LLC, Janet Copel, Greg Quilling, Anthony and Adri Swanson have submitted the attached petition for direct annexation. There are several ways to do annexations. In this case, they've done a direct annexation by unanimous approval. So all of the property owners, all of the electors within the property have requested this annexation. Ordinance 2025-04 is the annexation ordinance, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. There's a separate ordinance for the rezone. This ordinance was originally referred to the Plan Commission on July 7th. Plan Commission heard it on July 28th and recommended agricultural district as the temporary zoning for the property. I want to acknowledge that annexation is amongst the weightiest things that the city council does. Obviously, it has elicited a lot of feedback in this case. So as others have said, you have a tall order in front of you here. I wanted to kind of just go through a couple of questions, because I think sometimes we start looking into the larger picture than really what's on the table. So I put together a couple of questions, and I have a couple of comments on some other things. So the first is, will anyone be annexed against their will? No. All the property owners and all the electors in this property have requested this action. Is the proposed annexation contiguous with the city's existing corporate boundary? Yes. The 3/4 of a mile along County Highway B from 708th to 650th is directly adjacent to the city's North Industrial Park for that entire length. Is the proposed annexation consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? Yes, it is. The comprehensive plan, as others have mentioned, and I will pull it up here. It shows industrial land use in this vicinity. This is this area 15. This is the city's industrial park, and the area that we're talking about here is on the east side of that. Is the proposed annexation consistent with the city-town development map? This is a map that was developed over a number of years, I think starting in 2022. The property that's in question is this area from 650th to 690th. It was intended for development. It wasn't clear at the time whether it would be town or city development, but the long and the short of it is it was intended for development. So we've heard a couple of people say that this should stay agricultural. That was not the intention of folks as they put together this map. Can the city serve the property with water and sewer? Yes. So we have a 20-inch water main at 59th Street, which is located 59th Street and 708th. There's a 20-inch water main at that location. We have a 16-inch water main at 650th and County Highway B. That water main can be extended and looped around to serve the property. We can provide 75,000 gallons per day as has been proposed in this location. We are in the process of working on our well number 9, which we can serve it even better, but as of right now, we can serve this property with 75,000 gallons per day. We do have a 10-inch sanitary sewer that ends at 650th and County Highway B. The intention would be to extend that up along the east side of County Highway B to serve that area. We are working through the West Wisconsin Regional Planning and Wisconsin DNR on an urban sewer service area amendment to include this area. We expect to have that completed by January of 2026. Right now, the urban sewer service area shows service going all the way up to near Colfax. In those cases, we would have miles and miles of sanitary sewers to serve. In this case, it would be right across the street. So we anticipate that urban sewer service area plan will be completed well before any work would be done on the utilities in that area. And then is the proposed temporary agricultural district designation appropriate? Yes. So right now, obviously the lands are currently ag. There are, I believe, 3 homes in the area, and then one used to be a greenhouse. I don't think it's in operation any longer. The existing land uses that are out there all fit within the ag zoning. That ag is what we've used in the past for annexations. Ag is what the Plan Commission has recommended. So based on these questions, you folks can make a decision on what you feel is appropriate here, but I think it's pretty consistent, pretty clear that the annexation is consistent with what we've planned for as we approach this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schofield. All right, this would require,
David, do you want to talk on the, just because I go hand in hand, talk on the rezoning portion?
Sure.
thank you, guys.
So the second portion of this, of the actions that will be before you tonight, is to look at the rezone. Sorry about that. The second part of the action would be to look at the rezone from temporary ag, as would be approved if you were to approve the ordinance 2025-04, to look at proposed ordinance 2025-05. This ordinance rezones the property from temporary ag to I-1. One thing I need to be clear on is that Greg Quilling has not requested rezoning. He's on the west side of County Highway B. He would like to remain ag. So that he is not part of it, but the remainder of the properties within the proposed annexation would be rezoned from temporary ag to I-1. As we've talked, and as folks have mentioned, the proposed land use is a data center. I want to be clear that although the proposed land use right now is a data center, what is before you tonight is the I-1 zone. The reason why we disclose what we currently understand is the intended use is that we want to make sure that we don't rezone to one thing and then immediately rezone to something else. That doesn't serve anyone's purpose. So we have disclosed that we understand that it's a proposed data center, but this does not lock in the use of the data center. There are a number of other things that have to happen before this would, in fact, be able to be constructed. There's a development agreement. There's PSC approvals, as the gentleman from Excel mentioned. So before you tonight is proposed ordinance 2025. As you look at rezoning, there's a couple of things that I'd like you to keep in mind. The first is that no one is being rezoned against their will. The property owners, except for Mr. Quilling, as I mentioned, have requested to be rezoned from ag to I-1. Is the proposed land use compatible with the proposed restricted industrial use? Yes. City code allows for data centers in the I-1 zone. There's a specific establishment used primarily for the storage, management, processing, and transmission of digital data, which houses computer or network equipment, systems, servers, appliances, and other associated components. So this is an allowable use in the I-1 zone. Is the proposed restricted industrial use the most restrictive that accommodates the proposed land use? So we do allow data centers in 3 different land uses. I-1, I-2. I-2 and I-3 are less restrictive, so more permissive is maybe the best way to say that. So as you look at again, as the proposed land use right now is is a data center. We don't want to overzone this and allow an I3 when an I1 will do, if that makes sense. Is the proposed rezoning consistent with the existing or adjacent zoning districts? Yes, as I can pull up the zoning map. So the lands to the west are I1. The land to the southwest is I3. So this is consistent with the adjacent zoning. We're not adding a zoning here that is completely different from everything else. Is the proposed rezoning consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? As I mentioned during the discussion on the annex, yes, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And is it consistent with the town-city development map? As I mentioned previously, it is. So those are kind of the 6 questions that and you'll see those as we talk about the next agenda item as well. There's a number of other items that I wanted to address that have come up during the public hearing and previous discussions. At one of the previous meetings, there was some discussion that we should follow the Town of Red Cedars comprehensive plan. I believe the Town of Red Cedars comprehensive plan shows only the 440s along County Highway B as industrial, or in their case, I believe it said industrial/commercial. We're not under any obligation to follow the Town of Red Cedars comprehensive plan. If this is annexed, as we, in the previous agenda item, it is under our comprehensive plan, and we follow our comprehensive plan. The second is development of farmland. Bob Cook is a good man. I very rarely disagree with Bob Cook. I disagree with Bob Cook with respect to whether or not we're all going to starve. In the Dunn County, as of 2022, there were 260,795 acres of farmland. The 324 acres that are proposed for annexation and rezone here equate to 0.12% of the agricultural lands in Dunn County. A portion of there's approximately 52,000 acres that are irrigated, and approximately 160 of this property are irrigated. So it works out to 0.31% of irrigated croplands in Dunn County. I'd also like to point out in 2020, there were 3,720 acres of farmlands in Dunn County that were included under the CRP program. So I just want that observation on the record. Water usage.
Excuse me, David, can you explain what the CRP program is?
Yes, the CRP program is the Conservation Reserve Program. There's a number of positions of it. There are some that are, it pays farmers to use grass buffers rather than farming right through a swale. But it also pays farmers not to farm certain areas, so you can turn it back to either grassland or turn it to woods, to woodlot. Water usage. So you've heard some folks talk about this, and I'm sure if you've done some Google searching, you've found that there are data centers that use a tremendous amount of water. Those are use evaporative cooling, which is a system that uses a lot of water but is a little bit more electrically efficient. The developer in this case is not proposing to use evaporative cooling. In this case, they propose to use a closed loop system that uses an average of 75,000 gallons per day. Based on 2024 land sales, they would be the 5th largest water user in the city, behind Cardinal FG, 3M, Conagra, and UW Stout. City staff notes that the existing farmland in the southern 160 acres of the property is currently irrigated. According to data submitted to the Wisconsin DNR, that irrigation well, pumped 30 million, a little over 30 million gallons from July 1 through September 30th of last year. That works out to a little over 330,000 gallons per day out of the agricultural well, 400-foot well, right in the dead center of that southern 160 acres. The 750 acres, or the 750 gallons, sorry, 75,000 gallons per day that we would be providing would be being provided out of our 3 municipal wells, which are all located at least 2 miles away from this site. One's at Dunn County Fairgrounds, another one's downtown next to the waterfront restaurant, and the third one is on Tainer Street as you just after you leave Broadway. So our existing wells are nowhere near this property. Any sort of suggestion that we're going to dry up local wells is just not accurate. Energy usage. So as I'm sure you folks are aware, we don't operate an electric utility. There are some communities in the area, New Richmond is one of them, Black River Falls is another, that run their own electric utility. We don't do that. We rely on Xcel Energy and Dunn Electric to provide electrical power to the city of Menomonie. Any sort of electrical usage and any sort of electrical improvements that have to be done in order to serve the property would be handled by those electric utilities and the Public Service Commission in an advisory role. So we don't have an electric utility, we're not regulating that portion of it. The last thing I want to bring up is assessed value. So you've heard a couple of folks that have suggested that there would be virtually zero value to the development. These are projected numbers. These are not final numbers. There's no building for our assessor to go out and look at and set what the value would be. But based on what we know at this point, there are 2 phases proposed. The first phase, which is the southern half of the property, which includes 2 data halls, an office building, and a warehouse. We are expecting a taxed value, an assessed value of between $29 million and $90 million. How does that compare to the city's existing assessed values? Right now, our highest taxed property is Walmart Distribution Center at $36 million. Again, this is assessed, not equalized, is $36 million. So, and second is Anderson Windows at $28 million. So at the low end of what we're anticipating, they would be the second highest property tax value in the city of Menomonie. At the high end, they would be 250% of our current highest business. If both phases were to go, the anticipated property taxes that would be paid would range from $1.1 million to $3.6 million. Again, 1.1 would be based on the lower end of the range. 3.6 is on the higher end of the range. I'm sorry, I jumped over one thing. So that 29 to 90 million was phase 1. If you look at phase 1 and phase 2, the projected values are between 52 million and 163 million. So for phase 1, the property taxes paid would range from 650,000 to 1.97 million. For phase 1 and 2, property taxes paid would be 1.11 million to 3.6 million. If a TID is created, those values are captured by the TID and used to pay for improvements that are necessary to bring the development. If a TID is not created, or after the TID is created and runs its life, the city's portion of the property taxes would be $346,000 to $1.1 million per year. There's been a couple of folks that have mentioned environmental assessments. Environmental assessments are not required for annexations or rezones. WEPA actually has a sentence, I believe right after the portions that were read to you, that says this does not apply to local governments. That's used for the state as it looks at if they are to widen a highway or do something like build a prison, that sort of thing. But the city is not required to do an environmental assessment for annexations and rezones. We have not required an environmental assessment for any other annexations and rezones in our history. Cardinal, F&G, Walmart, Anderson, none of those have required an environmental assessment at this point in time. However, there is an environmental assessment done as you go through the process. So a project like this is going to disturb more than 1 acre of land. As you go through what's called the notice of intent permit, there's a process, there's an endangered resource review that's completed. The business looks at dust control, erosion control, stormwater management, all of those things are the things that would go into an environmental assessment. But they would have enough information if the design is done at that point to really evaluate what we're talking about here. I'm also not clear on what standards people are expecting that environmental assessment. I think as you heard the folks that are speaking tonight, there are some people that it doesn't really matter what this environmental assessment would say. They're not going to be in favor of it. So I think this idea that this environmental assessment is going to be the salve that solves all wounds is maybe a little misguided.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Spokesman. In this process, if this ordinance would have to be introduced, and then we get this with either reading, waive the readings, and then adoption or not adoption. Meanwhile, I would like to open up the council if they have any questions for Mr. Schofield. Perhaps this is the time to ask those questions. Matthew?
Yeah, just a comment to the council members, just for clarification from Dave as well, that this vote cannot be contingent on data center coming, right? We could shoot down the data center, or we could pass everything through, and Blueist, the developer, can go to the final end user, and they might say, no, not Menomonie, correct?
Yes.
So this vote is only for annexation and rezoning and for economic development. And being on the Economic Development Commission, we get requests for informations, and we can't attract the developers that we need to come in here. And so we need more, and that we know that we need more and more infrastructure. I wasn't going to speak on the data center, but since Dave brought it up, we share everyone's concerns here about the due diligence process. Talking, we can see that level of engagement across me in particular. I have an environmental engineering degree, and I work for one of our responsible operators here at the glass plant as an environmental compliance manager. And Menomonie has a great track record of being pro-industry and bringing in responsible operators, and it's not a this or that and that. You can have a thriving economy and industry and have sustainable environment as well. And we're proof of that with Cardinal, 3M, Anderson, Phillips, all of those. And so we'll be taking our due diligence here, maybe not a full-scale environmental assessment, but we'll take our due diligence here seriously. As far as number of jobs goes, with automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence, any new facility that comes in, you're not going to get the hundreds of jobs that we've seen in the past. Me working at Cardinal, Cold End used to have 42, 44 employees at the Cold End. Now, because of robotics, artificial intelligence, automation, we're down to 14 or less per shift on the Cold End, and that number's only going to go down. So expecting hundreds of jobs and jobs per acre is nothing. You're not going to see that like you used to with the 700 from the distribution center, 700 from 3M. That's just not going to happen anymore. So those are kind of a few comments that I have, and the big thing is that we have the economic development into attracting developers, and I believe this will help with that.
Okay, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, but this annexation and goes through, and the property is rezoned I-1. The city of Menomonie is not, we do not own that property. The people that have submitted a request to have this annexed in own that property, and they can pretty much sell it to anybody who they want. I mean, they could turn around and the owners come to them and say, we want to purchase your property. Seeing as how this property is not in our industrial park, what does the city have, what power do we have to stop the data center from coming into that property?
So, you're right, the property is owned by I think the 7 property owners that I mentioned. I presume that there's some sort of purchase agreement in place between the property owners and Blueist. I don't know that for sure. I haven't seen any sort of document like that. We cannot prevent, well, we couldn't prevent Blueist from buying and purchasing the property right now. It's a, maybe I should let Ben handle this, but this is we live in a
capitalist society and they can sell the property to whoever they want.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. They do have the ability to sell it to who they want to. As part of this, like David said, assuming there's some sort of purchase agreement that goes through, they would be purchasing it. But the city does not own it, can't put restrictions and stuff on it at that point. If it gets annexed and rezoned in, sold over to them, they would have control on what goes in there.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Cindy, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want to address some of the comments, especially what Matt said about the economic development and the importance of it. As someone who's a recent grad of UW Stout, I saw the struggle of trying to find a good job after graduation in this area. I agree with the chancellor, UW Stout students are really easy to hire and they can find good jobs, but not here. We have plenty of people and college students who want to stay in this area, and the only jobs they can find are bartending, Walmart, barista. It's not jobs in our industrial park, it's not jobs in this community. I mean, I was lucky enough to find one in Eau Claire that allows me to work hybrid, so I don't have to drive every single day down 12 and 94. There were comments about how there being hundreds of jobs in this area, and that's not accurate. As someone who's just on the job research, economic development is super important for this area. We have students that want to stay here, and we have complaints that there is a separate entity of the community and our college students, and that's not going to change if we don't give them incentives for wanting to stay, because they do. And it just seems that we just want to push them right out back to their hometowns, to Twin Cities, to Chicago, to the east side of Wisconsin, and we need them. I mean, a lot of the people who talked here today are homeowners, and that's something I dream of doing, but right now, I'm sorry, property value is not my highest concern. It's economic development and making sure people have the money to rent or buy a home or even buy food at this point. If people can't afford food, what's the point of even having it at that point if we're going to be struggling for scraps? And then the other argument about population not increasing very fast in other areas, that's because we don't have the jobs to maintain people. We're losing people to St. Croix Valley, to the Twin Cities, to Eau Claire, to Chippewa. And if you guys want nicer housing, if you want nicer roads, then we need economic development, and we need it bad. So I'm for the sanitization, I'm for the rezoning. I do think it's wise to put a stop and maybe revisit this next meeting, just so we have time to kind of reflect on the public comments that we heard today, especially because they were extenuous, but that's just where I stand right now.
Brian, go ahead, please.
Two questions. It was brought up that, people don't want to see this turn into another Foxconn fiasco. So let's say hypothetically that this rezoning and annexation passes, and that tomorrow Lunis is just like, nope, we found another spot, or whatever. What happens at that point?
So, I'm not an expert on Foxconn, but from what I understand, they got a lot of upfront incentives toward the development, and the community also spent a considerable amount of money improving access to the site, utilities to the site on their own dime. If this is approved tonight, we will enter into negotiations about a development agreement, and we certainly will bring that back before the city council for consideration. And I think we've all been informed by the decisions that were made at Foxconn, and try to avoid something like that.
Eric.
I would like to make a motion.
Eric has got the open. Eric, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion.
Hold on, Jeff. Eric, you hit your button.
Okay.
So Eric, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I just want to make a little bit of clarification, because what was just said a short time ago pertaining to Jeff's comment maybe got a little confusing, because he said once it got sold, then the city has no control of it. But really, we do have control in the sense of an agreement, a development agreement. We have control of the utilities, the water and sewer, and will this be part of a TID district as well? So the city is still going to play a big role in this development. if it gets sold to regardless of what the entity is, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Is this could be completely out of the hands of the city at that point?
Well, if it was sold directly to the property owners without wanting to come into the city and just develop in the town, then it is out of our control. And I think maybe that's what that's the way I
Yes,
get Jeff's question.
Yes, okay,
If
but,
we're annexing in and zoning it, then we have our leverage points or control over what we would like in a development agreement with the developer to ensure it meets certain needs or community interests and investments, and we get that return on investment. So that is our advantage as a city if we annex in zone, if I was clear.
I think you are, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear on it, that yes, the city will play a big role in how this gets developed. In some instances, maybe not in all instances.
Yes, Ben, do you want to go
Yeah,
further on that?
so that would be, if they're requesting incentives from the city, yes, the city would play a role in that. You would have to enter into the development agreement, you would go through that process, is what David outlined, if they're requesting incentives.
Yes, okay, so incentives means that the TID district possibly and/or utility develop for that particular area, correct? Yes, okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Jeff?
I would like to make a motion that we table this for a period of 90 days or more. Bring it back to our November 17th meeting. And this would allow the general public time to petition for getting this on a referendum and letting our community have a say in what goes on with that property.
Okay. Ben, Ben's we're gonna do for clarification, Jeff.
So first, I would say on the tabling of this matter, since it is annexation ordinance as before, it has to be acted on not less than 20 days after publication, and I believe within 120 days. It was filed June 18th, so that would have to be October 16th, 2025. With the referendum portion, there were changes to Wisconsin law, Wisconsin Act 12 enacted in 2023, changed items that municipalities may bring advisory referendums for. Subjects like proposed expenditures funded by property tax revenue, shared revenues, boundary changes pursuant to an approved cooperative plan, telecommunication, and municipal cable services. Those are permissible for advisory referendums, but other topics are way off limits. This petition for annexation wasn't brought via referendum. That is one of the possible items that could have been done, but since it's unanimous approval, it doesn't go through the referendum process. And based on Wisconsin Act 12, can't really do advisory referendums for this type of matter.
Interesting. Okay. So the motion itself then, does it have to be recrafted?
I would probably say an earlier time. You can, if you don't want to take action tonight, you can definitely pick an earlier time. I would just say it would have to be acted upon by the October meeting. Doesn't mean we can't do special meetings, things along those lines, but at least what I reviewed tonight, it would have to be acted within 120 days of filing.
Okay.
I would like to make a new motion then. I would like to make a motion to deny the annexation of the lands.
I think if you look at the public hearing portion, it will give you the exact description.
Make a motion to deny the annexation of the certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue in the town of Red Cedar, and establishing a temporary agricultural zone.
Ben, that motion? Okay, motion's on the floor. All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Cindy,
So is this denying, it's not approving, so if you want it, you vote no, if you, or no, like, how do you vote, I guess, because that's
Well,
not what.
first it would take a second to initiate the motion, and then we can clarify it that way. So there's a motion on the floor, and I'd like to second that motion, your opportunity is now to do so. Last call for a second to the motion. Okay, motion falls. Is there a second motion that somebody would like to make? Cody?
I'd like to move to postpone this item to our first September meeting.
Okay. Ben? Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that
Oh,
motion.
Jeff, okay, that's fine. Jeff made the second to that motion. Did-
What date was that?
I think it's September 1st.
September 8th.
September 8th, sorry.
Okay, I think we should, let's move into discussion on this piece, and we're gonna vote it up or down. So, September 8th, the motion reads that we will suspend this until the September 8th meeting. Is there council, do you have any other discussion before we move this? We do have a second. We have a second. Cody, do you, oh,
Cody beat it.
and Jeff, you seconded it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have it seconded. So is there any additional discussion on this? Sydney?
Why don't we want it next meeting? It's just, I guess, my question is why postpone it so, like, what's our value of not just seeing this at next meeting, but waiting that extent, I guess?
I'm gonna bring that back to Cody, who made the motion.
The way I see it is that this entire process has been kind of a fire hose of information, and I think for a lot of people, trust has been damaged. I know that wasn't the city's intent, but in order to, give people time to kind of process what we've heard here tonight, the new information that David brought up, I think it's prudent to give this one a little extra time.
Okay, Sydney, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other discussion points on this? Lee, go ahead, please.
I question the date chosen. I think it would be September 2nd. The first is Labor Day. We normally move to the next Tuesday rather than jumping to the next Monday.
Yeah, we've done that in the past, and we certainly could have that meeting scheduled on September 2nd, and the last year we did the same thing.
Well, that's historically what we do, from Monday to Tuesday.
That would be a correction in the motion then?
It is on the city calendar right now for September 8th for the city council meeting, but we haven't really discussed that since it's.
We need to clarify. Eric, give us your take.
So going back, when we established the dates for the council meeting, and we talked about the different dates that conflict with holidays, that the September 8th date, now Ben is bringing that up about online, that was a decision made by council to approve those dates. That's why I think that September 8th date was chosen. Is that correct, Cody, in your mind?
I believe so.
Okay.
Are we standing at September 8th? Provision?
If it's the will of the council.
Okay. All right, so right now we're hinging on September 8th rather than we got
I would just like to make a suggestion to the representative of Lunis that they or somebody else from their LLC go and literally just talk to the neighbors. I mean, when it's, the people in the surrounding properties have concerns and they're getting, when you do a Google search of your medical issues, it never comes up good. When you do a Google search of, what a data center is, it doesn't come up good either. And that getting information directly from the source of what's going on across the street from you or next door to you is, in my mind, good for everybody, whether or not they like what they hear or not. Getting clear, direct information from the LLC, I think, would be put a lot of people's minds at ease.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Gretchen.
There's a motion on the floor and a second, but I was wondering if we could waive the rules to allow the Lunis rep who is prepared to speak to answer questions.
Yes,
If you'd like to make a motion to waive the
I would like
rules.
to make a motion to waive the rules.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Matthew with the second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I opposed. Duly noted that they're going to oppose to waive the rules. Okay, that brings us up to you, sir.
Thank you. Again, my name's Douglas Buck, here on behalf of Balloonist. You know, I think this is a long road and a long process that you're going down with your community. As was mentioned a few minutes earlier, this is not the last approval that is anticipated will come before the board if this project moves forward. But delaying it any further is not going to introduce extra information that would inform this body about what's could potentially happen at the site. The petitioner has provided the city with a lot of, practically all the applicable information they need to vote on the rezone itself. There is going to need to be municipal services that would be extended out there. There's going to need to be an agreement with the city on how that happens. So as the mayor mentioned, there is, or maybe it was Eric, there is control that you as a community have, and this debate will continue. This process is the first time it's coming before the public, but it's not the first time that the city for years has been planning for industrial use on this site. You have a project before you tonight that is ready to move forward. Delaying it, there's a lot more planning that needs to go on. You're gonna ask, if you wanna know questions about what does the project site plan look like, we don't have it, we haven't developed it. So those questions won't be answered because we don't have zoning for this project. This is a really long process. It's a competitive process. Further delays hurts the project's chance of moving forward. So I would encourage you not to delay on this and to rely on the process. If we're requesting incentives from you, or we're asking you to extend your sanitary sewer and water above the schedule that you have, this public process and debate will continue. But you have to, we would respectfully ask that you move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I agree with what the Referendum states, is we have all the information we need, the relevant information we need to go through a vote today to rezone this. Waiting 2 weeks or 4 weeks isn't gonna give us anything. I don't see the advantage of waiting another 2 or 4 weeks to get this going. So I would, I think it's in our best interest for economic development and attracting developers to vote on this today.
Okay, Mary.
I guess I have to wonder if you're wanting a delay, what good is that? What is the purpose that that's going to serve the public? Are we going to offer public forums? Are we going to offer listening sessions? How is the delay going to benefit the folks that have questions that need answers? And are we going to be able to answer them if we do offer them a forum in which to voice their concerns? I'm not in favor of delay. I think we've listened and we have made a decision, at least I have, that I think we need to move forward on this in order to keep this going.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
One more thing that I would just like to add to that is we just passed this unanimously through Plan Commission on Monday, and I guess I'm not sure what changed since Plan Commission on Monday and now. So.
Anything else? Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should go with delay. I appreciate everybody that spoke either way about this, but I think if we delay it, we'll kind of hear the same story from the same folks. And, it's time to move on. We've got plenty of other ways to stop this if it proves not to be the wise thing to do, but we've got to get going on it. Let's get it over with.
Okay, anybody else? on this discussion piece, Cody?
I just want to add that, you know, the vote tonight is on the annexation and rezoning, and it would be really nice, really easy if it operated in a vacuum, but it doesn't. And the communication that has been associated with this process has been lacking, in my opinion. And of all the people that I've talked to, all the emails that I've gotten, the calls, the same thread of a lack of transparency came through all of them, regardless of what their overall issues were, whether it was about, you know, they live right next to the site and they don't like the noise and the lights, whether it was an environmental concern. I think a delay is extremely important so that the public can digest this information. We just got some new information about what it would do for the tax base. I guess it's not new to us necessarily, but it's new to the public. And so I think it's vital for building public trust and making sure that we, you know, say that we're listening and that, you know, we're not just acting in a knee-jerk way because, oh, it's a big dollar sign.
Sydney?
I'd like to add about the part about transparency, and I think the reason people are feeling a lack of trust or lack of transparency, so to speak, is because they're asking questions that we don't have the answer to. We have given them all the information we have. I know we've answered a plethora of emails and phone calls saying the same things, and it's not getting people's questions answered because there's not, what they're asking, we're not at that phase yet. I think we've even had a press release. I know Cody and I and other members have been on Facebook and social media answering questions along with individual private messages. There's not other information to be given right now. As we've said multiple times, this isn't a data center necessarily coming in, this is just annexation and rezoning. And so with people throwing around mistrust and lack of transparency, is we're being transparent in what phase we are right now. And we've given every single piece of information we've given out. Pushing it back, I agree, just to maybe sit with the public's comments, but I agree with Lee Schwebs and Matt Crow that it's not gonna create more information, we're just gonna keep hearing the same stories, because there's nothing else to share, in my opinion.
Ryan?
Just a question for some clarification. So with all of the long process that, all the long processes that have to go through for this to potentially be approved, what is the timeline, months, years, before, you know, they could potentially own the property and have full approval? Because that's one question that I've gotten a lot that I didn't have a solid answer for, is how quickly is this moving?
Okay, very good. Mr. Schofield, could you answer those questions?
Yeah, so if the annexation is approved tonight, there's a review process by the Department of Administration. I believe if it's approved tonight, it gets through that in mid-September, late September, something like that. Creating a TIF, there are a number of meetings that have to be held. There's a public hearing before this body. The Plan Commission reviews it, a joint review board consisting of the school district, the VOTEC, the city, and county has to meet twice before that is done. My recollection is that as it currently sits, we would be completed by October with those steps. There's some deadlines in there for TID districts in order to use the January 1, 2025 values that are right about that point. If we go beyond today's date, we have to use the 2026 values, and those may change, and so the base values might change. So at this point, they have not expressed any desire of starting construction in 2026. It would probably be a 2027 at the earliest construction schedule.
Okay, thank you, David. Any other questions regarding any of this stuff? Randy?
I agree with Lee and Matt to, let's deal with it tonight and vote on that annexation.
Okay. All right, well, we're gonna take this to vote. It's gonna be a roll call vote. So,
Remind the council, please, what the motion is. so
Okay,
they know.
we're gonna read the motion, then we're gonna tell you how you vote, how it works. Go ahead, can you read the motion, somebody?
So the current motion on the table is a motion to postpone ordinance 2025-4, an ordinance annexing certain lands around County Highway B until September 8th. Yeah, that's it.
Very good, and if you say yes, you agree with the motion for postponement. If you say no, you do not agree with it. So with that in mind, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Chris?
Solberg,
No.
Brennan,
No.
Bergman,
No.
Sommerfeld,
No.
Luther,
Yes.
Crow,
No.
Sutherland,
No.
Yanko,
No.
Pickard,
Yes.
Schwebs,
No.
Gentz.
Yes.
Okay, motion fails. Brings us back to the table. But let's make a new motion, you can do so at this time.
So with the motions, are we doing 5A? And then
Yes.
do some, okay, so,
Yeah, and if you're gonna do a motion, if it's an ordinance, we would need it. And if you're moving this as an ordinance forward, you need to make an introduction prior.
I'd like to introduce proposed ordinance 2025-04, ordinance annexing certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue from the town of Red Cedar, and establishing a temporary agriculture A zoning.
Okay, thank you. Now, that in turn, then a motion could be made. So if you'd like to make a motion, if somebody else would, then it's your opportunity to do so.
Make a motion to waive the first reading.
No, you would make a motion for the ordinance. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry.
Normal first procedure, correct. You did the introduction, would be going to
Waive
this.
the first reading.
Correct. and then-
So I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading of proposed ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance annexing certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue from the town of Red Cedar, and establishing a temporary agriculture A zoning.
Very good. Lee?
Second the motion.
Motion been made, seconded. Any discussion? None on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Just make a note. Very good. Okay, now if somebody'd like to make a motion to waive the second reading, do so at this time.
I'll make a motion to waive the second reading of proposed ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance annexing certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue from town of Red Cedar, establishing temporary agricultural zoning.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Lee?
Second the motion.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor of said motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Duly noted. Okay, and now if somebody would like to make a motion to adopt, you can do so at this time.
Make a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance annexing certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue from the town of Red Cedar, and establishing a temporary agriculture A zoning.
Motion's on the floor, is there a second? Lee?
Second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Okay, this is gonna be a roll call vote. Go ahead.
Crow,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
Pickard,
No.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Gentz,
No.
Solberg,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
No.
Okay, passes, next would be the, Business would be the 5B, proposed ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance rezoning certain lands along County Truck B between 650th Avenue, also known as Lake Point Road, and 690th Avenue from agriculture A to restricted industrial I-1. Discussion possible waiver, first reading, possible waiver, et cetera. So this would be the same scenario. Dave spoke to the website.
I just want to clarify, this one was introduced at the July 7th meeting, so this is not a requirement.
Okay, so we would not require the introduction, we still need the waiving of the first reading. So I think I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading, Sydney.
I'll waive the first reading of proposed ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance rezoning certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue from agricultural A district to redistricted industrial I-1 district.
Okay, is there a second, Rather?
I would second the motion.
Okay, motion been made, second to waive the first reading. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, if anybody likes to make a motion to waive the second reading, we do so at this time.
I make a motion to waive the second reading of proposed ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance rezoning certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 690th Avenue from agriculture A district to district of industrial I-1 district.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Is there a second? Abby?
I second the motion.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor of said motion waiving the second reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now it brings us to the ordinance itself. If somebody would like to make a motion to pass the ordinance, or to adopt the ordinance, correct? Lee?
Motion to adopt the proposed ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance rezoning certain lands along County Highway B between 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, and 609th Avenue from agriculture A district to restricted industrial I-1 district.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Matt Pro, second to the motion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. Again, if you're in favor of the motion, you would say yes, and not in favor, you would say no. Roll call.
Brennan,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
No,
Crowe,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yalko,
Yes.
Pickard,
No.
Schwebbs,
Yes.
Gents.
No.
Oh, sorry, did I miss one? Sorry, I missed you, Mary.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Brings us down to the next piece of business. That would be 5C, proposed ordinance 2025-06, an ordinance rezoning certain lands along Church from 21st Street Northeast and 7th Avenue Southeast, and now along Church from single-family residential R1 to local commercial B2. Discussion of possible waiver in the first reading, et cetera. So, that being said, that brings us to the next piece of business. Somebody would like to, yes, Dave, do you want to bring us up to speed a little bit on this one?
Yes, in your packet, there's a memo in regards to this. I have the same general question. So this is ordinance 2025-06. The planning commission did review this after being referred to them. They recommended it on a 4-3 vote on July 28th. So I'll just go through the same questions. So will anyone be rezoning this? Well, no. The applicants requested this. Is the proposed land use compatible with the proposed local commercial district? The B2 allows churches, parochial schools, public libraries, and other public educational and cultural institutions, public recreational and community center buildings, fitness center, private businesses, and commercial schools. Is the proposed local commercial district the most restrictive that accommodates the proposed land use? Yes. The daycare center, a commercial daycare center is not allowed in an R1 zone. There was some discussion today about leaving it as an R1 and then doing a variance. That would not be appropriate. A variance is, you have to prove hardship. There are plenty of allowable uses in the R1 zone. Church being one of them, as it currently sits and is proposed to continue. So a variance would not be an appropriate use. As of right now, all of the uses that we anticipate being done at that site would not fit under a conditional use. John mentioned the daycare, of course, has been discussed, but there was also discussion of athletic events in the gym. Those are not allowable under the R1 zone for commercial enterprise. Is the proposed rezoning consistent with the adjacent zoning districts? It is not. The lands to the south, east, well, in all directions none of them are zone B2. There's R1 to the north. Let's see here. There's R1 to the north. There's R2 to the south. The closest B2 district would be at the Mayo Healthcare Center, approximately 500 feet to the south. Is the proposed rezoning consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? The comprehensive plan shows this property as, zoom in here, this is the proposed property. The comprehensive plan shows this property as institutional. That term is not, we don't use that term in our zoning code, which makes it a little bit awkward. But I think it's fair to say that the comprehensive plan does not show this as a commercial use. Is the proposed land use consistent with historical use of the property? And the answer to that is yes. This was an elementary school for many years, I believe around 25 years. I believe that closed around 10 or 15 years ago. And so the proposed daycare is, I think, consistent with what this property has historically been used for. So there's a number of items that have come up in the discussion here that I wanted to address. So the first is the lots along 7th Street. So these are the 4 lots that are included in the proposed rezoning. So the actual property is all of the existing church and the 2 parking lots on either side of it, and these 4 lots that are currently zoned residential. As you can see on those lots, they are no longer buildable lots. A portion of the parking lot sits on those lots. You would have to remove the parking lot. I'm not gonna hazard a guess on how many stalls would be impacted, but I'm guessing it's probably, well, maybe I will guess. I'm guessing it's around 30 stalls would be impacted, because it's not just the stalls along this north edge. All these other stalls have to have access as well. So all this parking would have to be removed. I have family members that live in this neighborhood. I know that on Christmas and Easter, and I'm sure other Sundays, this parking lot is full. So to remove 30 to 40 parking stalls, I think would be problematic for their continued use of the property. It is absolutely true, as some of the neighbors have testified, that other uses are allowable in the B2 are allowed here. There's a little bit of a misunderstanding in that conditionally permitted uses have to have an extra step in order to be approved. So a used car lot, for instance, would have to come back before the Board of Zoning Appeals as not a permitted use, it's a conditionally permitted use. One thing that I will note is conditionally permitted uses are a little bit problematic to decline nowadays. It used to be a little easier, but in 2017, there were some state statutes and some court cases that were found that unless you have numerical reasons why something should not be approved as a conditional use, it's very difficult to do that. So if you add daycares as a conditional use in the R1 zone, then realistically, unless you add some additional prohibitions, a daycare could be built anywhere in the R1 zone. So it wouldn't just impact this property, it would impact all residential, all R1 zones. So there's a slippery slope concern there if we start to add daycares as a conditional use in all residential zones. The other one is, one of the gentlemen mentioned that once this is rezoned as commercial, it can never be rezoned again. That is not true. If you were to rezone it to commercial, the property owner can absolutely come back and ask for it to be rezoned to R1. It would have to go through the same process. The neighbors would have to be notified as we have here. There would be a public hearing before this body, the planning commission would review it. It cannot be conditionally zoned. There was some suggestion that maybe there could be a scenario where if the YMCA left there, that all of a sudden it went poof back to R1. That is not allowable. We cannot have conditionally zoned properties. I do also want to just address one thing, is that this is a daycare. I think we all know that YMCA's do more than just daycares. And so the reason why the B2 zone is the most appropriate zone for this proposal is that it addresses all the things that a YMCA usually does. Fitness center, athletic events, that sort of a thing. The B2 zone is what most appropriately fits. There was a suggestion, I don't remember who it was, Derek perhaps, that they could run the daycare out of here as long as it wasn't licensed. That's not true. The uses have to meet the zoning, not just for the licensing portion of it. So you have before you ordinance 2025-06 to rezone that property from R1 to B2.
Okay, well, thank you, David. I think this is almost considered spot zoning. It worries me that this could be turned into a lot of things other than daycare. I think the neighbors are concerned about that as well. I know that, yes, you can have agreements between the church and the affiliate, and maybe it's all wonderful. But what happens when the day comes where maybe the church decides that they're gonna sell this property, or whatever? If that's the case, there's nothing to restrict that area from anything other than the zoning that it's currently in. So this worries me a little bit, that this neighborhood is going to be faced with a new zone that they weren't expecting, so I have concerns. I'm gonna go to this side, and we'll start with Sydney. Go ahead, Sydney.
I want to extend those concerns. I mean, we see it where our downtown is. We can't control what goes into our spot. I think an infamous example is Dragon Tales, which I think is a really good family-friendly atmosphere, and every time you walk in the door, you smell marijuana because of the next door vape shop, so I get the concerns of the residents here. Not that I am against, like, having, in urban planning, it actually is really positive to have some commercial within a neighborhood when it's positive to the people who live there. Example A is a daycare. So I'm for this daycare. I'm not for the full rezoning. I would really like to request that the lots on 7th Avenue not be rezoned and stay R1, especially as the chair of the housing committee. We really need housing. And I know it's gonna be difficult to build, but I just think taking residential housing zone away is not what we need right now. If there's a good business that would go well in a neighborhood and with a child care center, I ask that that business come and ask for that land to then be rezoned so we can have more of a say of what's going there.
Right.
If we leave those 4 lots zoned R1, does that prevent them, does that prevent them from still continuing being used as part of the parking lot as it looks like their plan probably is, or does that have some negative effect on the rest of their plan?
If the parking lot is used to serve a commercial use, it needs to be zoned commercial. We've had this discussion on the area next to Culver's in the past. There's a section of that that's zoned residential. They've talked about doing an expansion of their parking lot into that area, and we've said that's not appropriate. That being said, if the daycare was directed to put all their parking on the south side of the building and they cannot park in the north area, there's maybe something there. The daycare's not going to use, I don't know how many stalls they have, 250 stalls. So it seems unlikely that they would have to use the northernmost area.
There would be another possibility, I'll get with you, Lee. There's another possibility, if we wanted to go through our ordinances and reconstruct one of the ordinances to be able to allow this, there could be some wiggle room for that, but it's a process. It's not a simple thing, and then there's some criteria too that would be embedded in that ordinance to protect the city from certain criteria. So that being said, Lee?
I have another question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to Ryan. Ryan, go ahead.
And maybe this is best answered by Ben, is that, can the church and the YMCA have a contract between them that would require it be rezoned? Because people change jobs, people move, people get hit by lightning, you know. We don't wanna go, well, these two guys that came here were really nice guys and they gave us their word, and now they've moved on to something else or they're retired or whatever. Can they, is that a feasible thing? Would that be, does the state statutes allow that?
They would definitely be able to have a contract between themselves on it. They could put deed restrictions on it as well, but that doesn't mean those would stay in perpetuity. I mean, people can get, if both parties agree, they can remove deed restrictions on it as well. Like David said, we can't really put any contingencies on it, as that would be a part of it. So they can always, I mean, they're free to contract between themselves on it, they put deed restrictions on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it can be permanent. And with the question on if you approve kind of part of it, but not the four on top, this is kind of an all or nothing right now. We can't really divide it up and say we're good with the south half portion, but not the top half, because there's an ordinance in front of you based on the request from the landowner. It doesn't mean that if this gets denied, the landowner can come back and say we just want to request the south half portion, but the city council can't just say we want to just do half of this property and not the other half and vote on it tonight. The ordinance in front of you is for the 4 lots on top and then all of the other property, so that's what would be voted on this evening.
Lee?
Would you put that map back up?
This one?
Yeah. The problem is those 4 lots on top. What would happen if they would post up something keeping people from parking on that north side and maybe move the entrance down if you could get into what's left of the north part? They come back with that as their design, and if it looks like the one house, the one lot they could put a house on is the far one to the east. If they could put a house up, if they want to. And this kind of abandon those 3 lots. But put posts in there, you know, put some chains up, you can't park there.
Okay, and somebody else had their hand up. Gretchen?
Well, I think, you know, short-term, long-term, always with regards to things and what, you know, potential future businesses that could go in there. But then I also, as it was pointed out already, mixed use is happening in cities all the time, and change is happening all the time. But reasonably, that area, you're not going to have storefront businesses. Those are gonna be along major thoroughfares where there's marketing attraction from, you know, pulling folks off the road. You're not gonna, I mean, it's possible to have, you know, a business in there that's a vape shop, but realistically, a business that might go in there, you know, like somebody had mentioned to me, a bait shop for, you know, going down the road with your boats. So the potential for businesses on those lots there, removing parking lot, et cetera, I find to be remote at the moment and into the future. And also, I'm going to value the promises of the 2 organizations that they're involved. Alliance Church has had a huge, well, multiple huge gun shows before. They've gone, you know, it's existed there. So with all those things, the potential is limited based on in contrast to the benefits and the need for daycare, I'm not sure how it was carried out. I think it was because of how they had it, but my son actually attended daycare in that building. And the importance of the funding is crucial, because the full cost daycare is unreasonable for the income of our community and the needs of our community for daycare. So the value of that as YMCA and daycare and after-school care near Oak Lawn, so transportation costs far, in my opinion, outweigh the potential for a future random business going into very odd shaped lots in an unvisible road way off of the standard commercial district. So that's how I view those lots. I'm okay with the promises made, and I trust that they're going to put into place some longevity information for the two organizations, so that if somebody's hit by a bus, forbid, that it would still be carried out, that would go back to residential.
Matthew?
Not can't really speak on the zoning part so much, but as a parent that has kids, 4, 9, and 11, and my wife made about $20 an hour, and we just took my son out of daycare because it was costing $282 a week, and my wife lived in Chippewa, and so the finances didn't really add up, and so having accessible and affordable daycare is necessary here. I'm also on the housing committee, and I believe it's not this or that, just like I said with the data center or zoning and the environment, it's both. We can also expand our housing and add daycare where we can. We can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. And I can only talk to John's character and what John and his family have done for this community. They're not here to exploit the community, they're here to make our community better. And so, in support for daycare and believe the YMCA, John, and what they're trying to do for this community.
Andy?
I've lived in that area for 40 years. It's not a commercial area. It's 4 blocks from the highway. It's 2 blocks from the hospital. It's a block from abuse center, and it's also a block from assisted living area. So it is. I have to agree, it is a quiet neighborhood, but I can't see anything being down there other than daycare. It doesn't seem like it would be a good bet.
All right, any other discussion? Otherwise, if anybody would like to make a motion to waive the first reading, we can do so at this time. It's already been introduced. We already go to planning commission, so we're at this page. Go ahead, Cody.
I'll move to waive the first reading of proposed ordinance 2025-06.
Brylan?
I'll second Cody's motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then if anybody would like to make a motion to waive the second reading, we do so at this time. Debbie?
I move to waive the second reading of proposed ordinance 2025-06.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Cody?
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made, seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we are at the motion to adopt. If somebody would like to make that motion, we can do so at this time. Yes.
I'll make a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 2025-06 and ordinance rezoning certain lands along 21st Street Northeast and 7th Avenue Northeast from single-family residential R1 to local commercial B2 district.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Abby?
I second Gretchen's motion.
Motion been made, seconded. Additional discussion, please. All right, my personal opinion is I think we could find a really good spot for a YMCA in town. Whether or not once they get that established, whether they would move daycare to that specific location or not. But I think that's an ongoing discussion that we will be having with YMCA is to prep them for a larger facility, hopefully housing all of their needs. Again, I'm a bit concerned that we're retreating into spot zoning on this particular neighborhood, but it's in your preview right now for you to vote this up or down. We will have a roll call vote. So a yes supports the motion, a no does not. Roll call vote, please.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Gantz,
Yes.
Solberg is down. Brennan,
No.
Erdman,
No.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
Sutherland,
No.
Yonko,
Yes.
and Pickard.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to the next piece of business.
Sorry, what was the vote?
6-4. Or I don't know, hold on.
I've got 3 noes,
7
and then
yes.
7 yeses.
3 noes, 7 yeses. Moving on to under new. What's that?
Well, I believe it has to pass with a, majority, or we're good.
Or just majority?
Second one, annexation.
Correct, yep.
All right. That moves us under new business. 6A, proposed resolution 2025-13, resolution requesting exemption from the county library tax. Eric, can you just bring us up to speed real quick?
Yeah, so this is an annual, I'm sorry, Mayor. So this is an annual resolution that comes before this body requesting an application for exemption from the county library tax. So we contribute a set dollar amount that's above the mandatory contribution, which can get us exempt from that tax, and then it is required for this body to pass a resolution to refer that.
Okay, thank you for that, and it's before you. If anybody like to make a motion, go ahead, Sydney.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2025-13, requesting exemption from the county library tax.
Okay, is there a second to that motion, Abby?
I second Sydney's motion.
Motion been made, seconded, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 6B, fire department rescue boat purchase. There's a bunch of need for a rescue boat for the fire department. The chief is here tonight. Some of the bids that came through weren't adequate, and there was a number of reasons. So, Chief Glass, if you want to come up and explain what we're doing, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Several years ago, we started looking at replacing the current 1996 Princecraft fishing boat that we'd gotten. That was actually purchased through the firefighters union and paid on call through fundraisers. It's a great fishing boat. It doesn't work very well for rescue due to high sides. With that, we put a committee together that looked at many different platforms. We sent out requests for bids to at least 7 different boat manufacturers. We received 3 back. One did not meet the minimum requirements. The other one was a, here's your boat, use it. And the one that we are recommending was the only one that would meet the customization that we're looking for running in the shallow waters around our area. It's got a center steering column. It's got a tunnel hull, which allows all the water from the bottom of the boat to go into the center in a tunnel where the jet drive is. So the actual jet drive is above the bottom of the boat. So if you do go over a couple inches of rocks, you're not going to take the bottom of your propulsion off. So there was a lot of work that went into this, and the proposal before you is to purchase the Prodigy boat for $56,060. We were approved for $60,000 in the CIP in 2024 for that. So,
How long are we anticipating this boat will last?
the 1995 boat replaced a 1958 Boston whaler, which I think the street department is still running to put buoys on the lake. I would anticipate this boat to last us in excess of 30 or 40 years. So they're very well maintained at this department. So,
Sydney?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the purchase of a 2025 Prodigy 1860 tunnel from Prodigy boats at a cost of $56,060.96.
Is there a second to that motion? Abby?
I second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Yonka,
Yes.
Bickert,
Yes.
Schwebbs,
Yes.
Gantz,
Yes.
Silver is absent. Brennan,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Sutherland.
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us down to 6C, special events request. We're gonna package all three of these into one motion. UW Stout Move-In 3, 3rd Street East, August 23rd to August 31st, 2025. UW Stout Homecoming, Soapbox Derby, Wilson Avenue West, October 2025. UW Stout Homecoming Parade, various downtown streets, October 25. Somebody like to make a motion to support the city, vote please.
I'll make the motion to approve special event permits for UW Stop Move-In, Homecoming Soapbox Derby, Homecoming Parade as presented, contingent upon proof of insurance.
Okay, I don't know if they need the contingent portion, do they? Okay, we're through it on, they do have it. Okay, very good. Yes, Cody.
I'll second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Brings us down to budget transfers. We have a budget transfer. Eric, can you bring us up to speed, please?
Yes, sir. So we have one budget transfer, it's from the fire department, and we are requesting an amount of $4,300 from the contingency fund to buy computer equipment. Unfortunately, our computers that the fire department have are in this case, they're old and will not support a Windows 11 software package. And so unfortunately, we need to buy a new one, because the computers they were using were rehabbed from another department and it will not take a new software system. So that's the reason for the funds. We have plenty of money in the contingency fund this year. The department has been very good about managing their balances.
Okay, maybe I'd like to support this with a motion to do so at this time. Sidney,
I'll make that motion to approve the budget transfer as presented.
thank you. Is there a second? Abby,
I second Cindy's motion again.
any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Gantz,
Yes.
Silver is absent. Brennan,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Sommerfeld,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yonka,
Yes.
Bickert,
Yes.
Schwebbs.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us down to the mayor's report. Mayor's report, real brief. National Night Out is tomorrow night, starts at 5:30 at Wilson Park. 7:30 the band show will, the Ludington Guard Band will start playing. Okay, so there's been some concerns regarding the Pine Avenue over by Walgreens. That was a Wisconsin DOT project. There was not a whole lot that the city could do to stop it or change the concept of that. So there was over 85 accidents in the last few years. So that was an automatic thing done by the DOT. Pickleball courts, the pickleball courts in North Menomonie around Labor Day. They're going to plan on closing those and resurfacing them, and there's going to be additional pickleball courts up there. I see the first layer has been put on Pine Avenue down at Wakanda Park. It'll be put on today and probably in the next couple of days. That's a welcome sight for that area. I think school starts when, David?
August 25th, I believe, is the welcome day, and then first day of school is the 26th.
And are they planning to get the second lift on before then?
Yes, they're planning on getting the second lift sawed and sealed and painted by
Very
that
good.
date.
Cool. That's a good thing. Thank you. I just want to address one thing that was brought up tonight earlier in the meeting, and that is the lake. And there's a lot of work being done on our lake, and the lake is getting cleaner. Our test results are coming in more positive all the time. We did 3 dredging projects. The Farmer-led Council up north was started, the water conference. I presented ideas to the governor regarding how to clean our lake and how to support it with finances. You know, so it's just, there's a lot happening with the lake that meets the eye. Yes, it's not perfect. It's 10-year, probably another 10, 15 years to get better. I do want to state that the wastewater that is put into the river system is cleaner than the water in the river system. So if we could put all of the lake water into our sewer system, it would instantly be clean. So Randy, please. Randy.
Typically, when it gets over 95 degrees for 3 days in a row, you get a paste on it. That hasn't happened this year. We had some really hot days that went on a stretch, and it doesn't have the paste on it this year. So it's much better. I've seen it get much better since I've been down in the lake.
Yeah, it has definitely been improving, a lot of work being done all up the river, and so it just bothers me a little bit when somebody, claims that there's no work being done on the lake, and there's a ton of work being done on the lake. Other than that, I do not have anything other than it was a long meeting tonight, and I'm gonna be really brief, and I'm gonna take it around the room. Eric?
Well, I've got nothing.
Pete?
Yeah, nobody's here anymore, but I just want to thank everybody for coming out and getting involved in local politics. It's not fun, it's not glamorous, but local government can't work without participation, so thank you for participating.
Very good, thank you. Session?
Love it.
Matt? Jeff?
I had people comment on our new highway 1225 up there. There's been people actually witness people pulling out of Walgreens. Oh, I gotta go that way? Oh, no, I'm gonna go this way. They're doing a U-turn at the end of the median.
Oh, what? It wasn't me, I hope it wasn't you, so. All right, going around the room, David.
I had a 7-part update, but I'll save it for next time.
All right, it's all right.
This Saturday morning is the Menomonie Meander meeting at 8:30 at the Dunn County Fairgrounds with a bike helmet giveaway for kids, bike bell giveaway, a stop at Wakanda Park for some refreshments donated by the co-op. And yeah, guaranteed a good time and a good ride if you're not doing the 6th century a little bit later. So.
Okay, thank you. Randy?
I got nothing.
Okay, Rob? No, Cody?
One thing, my comments about the transparency thing earlier, I want to make sure I'm not disparaging city staff or anything. I know that you all do a ton of work, put in 110%. I really appreciate all the work that you do. I guess my biggest concern that I want to convey is that I feel like when these projects come down that have a lot of public interest, we need to be more proactive about sharing information and addressing my questions. I liked the press release that you did, Eric. I think that was in the right direction. So that's kind of where my comments were coming from there. I just want to make sure that put that out there.
Thank you. Well, accepted, Ben. Eric, you got one more thing.
I did, so I lied, I got another thing. So this Saturday, there is the back to school shopping with the cop program that is taking place, where the police take out local youth and get back to school supplies. It's a great program, so thank you to Walmart for being a sponsor and for all those in the community that have donated to that effort.
Thank you. It runs us down to claims. If we'd like to pay the bills, can I make a motion to do so? And we'll be able to revise this evening. Sydney.
I'll make the motion to approve the revised claims list as presented.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Eddie?
I second.
Okay, and we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Summerfield,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
Sutherland.
Yes.
Yonko.
Yes.
Pickard,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Gentz,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It brings us down to licenses. We have no license this evening. That brings us down to adjournment. If anybody would like to adjourn. Oh, Abby?
I move to adjourn.
Oh, what?
It is past my bedtime by like 4 hours.
Is there a second? Cody? Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for their patience. Thank you, entire room, for being here this evening. Thank you.
Even longer than I expected.